All right, discussion 27, fellowship 27. I want to start calling them fellowships because really that's what it is. We are all mishpacha here, and we keep growing. Praise Yahuah. So wanted to start off with a quick prayer, and then we'll get right into everything. Father Abba Yahuah, we thank you for this fellowship and this blessed gathering that you have provided for us each and every Sabbath. And we thank you for your day of rest. A lot of us are going through struggles and tough situations. We all need your help. Please give us all the strength we need to endure to the end. And I also wanted to pray for those who are struggling through sicknesses and whatever other trials or tribulations the adversary tries to put on your people. I pray for protection against that and for strength for us all to be able to endure to the end. And we thank you for everything that you do. And we just ask that you be here while we read and study all of your word and test everything out. And I pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Amen. All right, so Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, welcome, everybody. So, to start, here, I'll share the link first here in chat, but we'll go ahead and play our calendar discussion video here. And for all the newcomers, welcome. We are glad to have you here. Our group keeps on growing. All praise to the Most High. And it's His truth that's going to be spread. So let me go ahead and I'll play the video here walking through the calendar. Then afterwards we will take any questions, or if anybody has anything they would like to add or have discovered as well. And then we're going to do our reading out of, well, first through my article about Enoch and Jubilees, and then our Dead Sea Scrolls. So with that, let me go ahead and share the screen here. And then I will mute the mic and we will get started. So, welcome, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I pray everybody had a blessed week. It was pretty long week for me. I know it was for others as well. But so we'll start off with the calendar here. So starting in Genesis 1, and this is going to be all together 1 through 5. So creation, verses 1 through 2. So this is going to be before the counting of days. So in the beginning, Elohim created the Shamayim and the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Ruach of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. So this is going to be verses 3 through 5. This is going to be the light which starts our counting of days. So Elohim said, "Let light come to be." And light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, day 1. So a biblical day in scriptures, I'm speaking of a 24-hour cycle, it's going to begin, just like we read there in Genesis, when the light came to be. So this picture is just, yes, it's showing the sun there in Genesis 1, verses 3 through 5. That light is not the sun, but it is the Messiah, the sun. This is just an example here. So we see it begins when the light came to be. There was no blendings. It just began like a light switch. Flipping the light on, boom. Then we have evening. Then we have the Chozek or darkness. Then we have the Boker or the morning. So it's going to end here. This is going to complete a 24-hour biblical cycle, as we can see clearly defined by Genesis 1, 3 through 5. So taking that into note, we can see on day one, there was a formless void of darkness that existed for an unknown amount of time. The light coming to be is what begins the counting of days or time, like flipping a light switch. So without the understanding of the light of Genesis 1:3, which is not the sun, and the light of Genesis 1:14, which is the sun, there's no chance of understanding the calendar of Yahuah. So taking this into account, we see there's a division of time before time started, or a divider that is seen at the beginning of Creation Week. So since Creation Week is a standard to start each year, we must take this void of time into account as well. So Creation Week is going to give us our standard of each day and what a week is. This is how we begin our year. So this is the divider day that separates the years. Yahuah works in divisions. He divides the light from the darkness. He divides the days. He divides the weeks, the months, and the seasons. So why wouldn't there be a yearly divider as well? This divider day keeps the calendar in sync with the heavenly markers each year, without drifting behind them or ahead, then adding 7 days to the year to catch back up. Yahuah didn't give us the heavenly signs and then tell us to wait until a Wednesday, or to let the signs drift forwards or backwards each year to catch back up to them. Nor did the Gregorian week as we know it today exist when Yahuah created everything in the beginning. Why would the sons of Zadok align Creation Week to a Wednesday that didn't even exist at their time? So here we're going to see Genesis 1 through 5 again. So verses 1 through 2 is describing this void of time before time. The light coming to be marks the starting of the counting of days. Then we have evening and morning. So Jubilees 2 verse 9. So Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, Sabbaths, months, festivals, years, Sabbaths of years, Jubilees, and for all seasons of the years. So the sun. The sun is the great sign, the oath for weeks, months, years, Sabbaths, as we see. What we also will see is there is a sign for when the weekly Sabbath day will begin. So Jubilees 2, 16 through 17, he completed all his work on the sixth day, and all that is in the heavens and on earth, and in the seas and in the abysses, in the light and in the dark, and in everything. And he gave us, the angels, a great sign, the day of Sabbath, that we should do work 6 days and should rest on the Sabbath from all work. So the Sabbath is going to be the sign for each week. And all the angels of the face and all the angels that cry holy to us, these two great kinds, he said that we should observe the Sabbath with him in heaven and on earth. So Jubilees 2:21. So he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day, to eat, to drink, Baruch him who has created all matters, as he has Baruch and Kodesh unto himself, a treasured possession, a people of all peoples, that they should guard the Sabbath together with us. So this is the angels speaking here to Moses, telling there is a sign that he gave us on which day we should guard the Sabbath. So in verse 21 of Jubilees chapter 2, we see he created a sign in which the day we should guard the Sabbath. Verse 9 is showing us it's the sun. So the sun is the marker or the straight line to Kufa equinox, which marks day 4 of the week. This is when the spring equinox happens every year, when the sun, moon, and stars were created to track the counting of months. Day 1 of month 1 on day 4 of creation week. 3 days later is always the Sabbath day. Why would there be a sign the angel of Yahuah is mentioning in Jubilees if the Sabbath was always a never-ending cycle of 7 days? And we also cannot have a sun sign happen on day 3 before the sun was made on day 4. So what we're going to see here is exactly the menorah. So the 4th branch, longest, straightest branch, marking the straight line to Kufa equinox. This straight line, the sun rising in the morning, would shine directly between the doorway, the 2 pillars in the temple and the tabernacle, and it would light up the Holy of Holies right in the center, marking day 4 of the week always. 3 branches later on the menorah, the Sabbath day. 3 days later, the Sabbath day, always. This is the true menorah method. Sorry about that. So Jubilees 50, 1 through 4. So right here is going to show us Jubilees is making a distinction between the yearly Sabbath days. So Jubilees 50, 1 through 4. And after this law, I made known to you the days of the Sabbath in the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai. And I told you of the Sabbaths of the land on Mount Sinai. And I told you of the Jubilee years in the Sabbaths of the years. The Sabbaths of the years. But the year thereof I have not told you until you enter the land which you are to possess. And the land also keeps its Sabbaths while they dwell upon it. And they shall know the Jubilee year. Therefore I have ordained for you the yearly Sabbath, and the years, and the Jubilees. So right there, I have ordained for you the yearly Sabbath, 7th day, distinction every single year. So there are 49 Jubilees from the days of Adam till this day. 1 week, 2 years. Still there are 40 years to come for learning the commands of Yahuah until they pass over into the land of Canaan, crossing the Jordan to the west. So the sun's analemma, and from vernal equinox to vernal equinox, is also going to show us 365 days in between. Job alludes to this divider day as his day of birth in Job chapter 3. So Job 3:6, that night let darkness seize it. Let it not be included among the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of months. So this is Job alluding to that divider day that happens every single year. The day that doesn't come into the counting of the days of the year or the number of months. Get a drink of water here, excuse me. So also in Genesis 5, verse 23 through 24, where you see all the days of Enoch were 365 years. It's not a coincidence. So as we can see, Enoch walked the earth 365 years. The divider day is day 365, although it is not counted in the numbering of days, months, or years, as Job himself alluded to. Also, Jubilees tells us the yearly 364-day count begins at creation and is numbered in 52 weeks of 7 days. So Jubilees 1, 27, and 29. This is 27. And he said to the messenger of the presence, write from Moshe, from the beginning of creation, until my Mikdash has been built among them forever. Verse 29. And the messengers of the presence who went before the camp of Israel took the tablets of the divisions of the years from the time of creation, of the law, and of the witnesses of the Sabbaths, of the Jubilees, according to the individual years, according to all the number of the Jubilees, from when the day of creation, when the Shamayim in the earth shall be renewed, and all their creation according to the powers of the Shamayim, and according to all creation of the earth, to the Mikdash of Yahuah shall be made in Jerusalem on Mount Zion. And all the lights be renewed for healing, for peace, and for a barakah, blessing for all the chosen of Israel. And so it shall be from that day, what? The day of creation, and to all the days of the earth. So Jubilees 6, chapter 6, verse 30 through 33. So, and all the days of the command shall be 52 weeks of days, and these shall make the entire year complete. So 52 weeks of 7 days is going to make the year complete, starting at creation, from the day of creation. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the tablets of the Shamayim, and there is no neglecting this command for a single year or from year to year. So year to year, not once is adding 7 days to this count mentioned. We don't see 53 weeks of days every now and then. No, we see 52 weeks of days every single year and from year to year. And you shall command the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. And these shall constitute a complete year. And they shall not disturb its time from its days and from its festivals, for all shall fall out in them according to their witness. And they shall not leave out any day or disturb any festivals. But if they neglect and do not observe them according to his command, 364 days, 52 weeks of 7 days, they shall disturb all their seasons, and the year shall be dislodged from this order, and they shall neglect their laws. So it's always a 364-day count, starting at 0, as we can see. Jubilees 50, verse 4 again. So therefore I have ordained for you the yearly Sabbaths, the yearly Sabbath divided, and the years and the Jubilees. So here we go, Lamentations 2:6. So we're just going to start right here. Yahuah has made the appointed times, the festivals, and the Sabbaths to be forgotten. How can the Sabbath be forgotten if it's an endless 7-day cycle? So this clearly shows the Sabbath day was lost. How can this be if it was a constant 7-day endless cycle from year to year? So why would there need to be a sign each year to know when the 7th day Sabbath was that the angel spoke about, that we just read, if there wasn't a yearly division of the weekly cycle? So a very interesting find has been discovered in 4Q324D, which is a Qumran scroll, Dead Sea Scroll, is the location of the text, in the text of the word vacate, which is located in column 5, verse 9. So this word sometimes applies to a large amount of missing text from the scroll. So I have it here, 4Q324D, column 5, verse 9 through 10. So on the 28th in it, a Sabbath, 28th of the 12th month, on vacate, so lots of missing text. Then after this missing text, it continues on. Weekday 2, and it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So that weekday 3 is speaking about the 31st day of that 12th month, that 4th seasonal intercalated day. So this is important to notice because only important and special days are recorded in this scroll. So normally there would be no text that would exist in this location unless it's an important date, and it is. Excuse me. So this is the exact location the yearly divider day falls on, after the last Sabbath of the year, which is the 28th day of the 12th month. So what other large amount of text would be missing if it was just a normal day? So another interesting find is in 4Q394, which is also known as 4QMMT. We're going to find this. So this is from Garcia Martinez, Florentino Garcia Martinez, 4Q394. So the 3 dots means text is missing, like a word or two. So this is speaking about the 28th, though, the Sabbath, same as what we read up there. And then after the Sabbath, blank is added. Again, a single word or two is just missing. And the year is complete in 360 blank days. So this fragment shows some of what is missing in the 4Q324D, where the term vacate is located in column 5, verses 9 through 10. So Garcia Martinez version shows us what is on the original fragments with no added text. So when we put the two fragments together, this is our interpretation of what we will get. So on the 28th in it, a Sabbath, then I added the brackets here to show you this is 394. So after the Sabbath, a day is added, and a year is complete in 364 days. Then weekday 2, and it falls the 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So here's column 5, 4Q324D. This is a screenshot I took of the PDF. So we're going to see here, it's speaking about the 12th month, the beginning of the 12th month. And we see verse 9 and 10. On the 28th in it, a Sabbath. On, here's vacate, missing text. After the missing text, the text continues, weekday 2, and it falls. And then column 6 will complete the sentence here. The 30th day of the month. Weekday 3 is additional. So here's 4Q394, also a screenshot I took of it. So this is from, again, Florentino Garcia Martinez, 4Q394. So a Sabbath in it. After the Sabbath is added, and the year is complete, 360 blank days. So here's going to be a picture of the book, Florentino Garcia Martinez. So this is what I'm going to show you here, what I'm speaking about. So it's on 2 separate pages of the book, so that's why it's kind of broken up here. But we see this bracket and this bracket. That means this is an author's insertion of what they think might go there. So what we read here is what is in the actual scroll. So when we take this bracket, we take that out, a Sabbath in it. After the Sabbath is added, and the year is complete in 364 days. So again, this is a picture from Florentino Garcia Martinez book. Where am I? Sorry. It kind of scrolls pretty quickly when around. Apologies there. I wanted to pause it real quick. What was it that you were saying or asking there, Katrina? Apologies. Katrina, can you hear me? I'm sorry. She'd asked me to pause it and address something. 1 second. Okay, she said give her 1 second. Sorry about that.
Okay. Worst timing ever. Okay, so I wanted to go over because Greg was like, oh, back in Lamentations, that was before Ezra. And after that, we got back the Sabbath. And it hasn't been changed since. So, what I said to him was, you can't literally say, you can't say that we lost the Sabbath just then. I mean, we went back into exile, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, about the verse in Lamentations, about the Sabbath being lost. There's some that try to use the excuse like, oh, it was only lost for them at that time, and then we got it back. Well, the whole fact of the matter is it was lost. So if it was a continuous 7-day cycle, it was lost. And it's still lost today because, Satan has done so much with hiding the truth about the calendar, removing all these books trying to discredit the Dead Sea Scrolls, just so people can hold on to this Gregorian week. And they refuse to want to acknowledge the signs in the heavens that Yahuah gave us to mark his weeks. So yeah, there's people who would try to brush off the verses and say, "Oh, well, we're misinterpreting them," or what have you. But that's what they do, is they try to isolate one single piece of evidence from all the other evidence and say, "Oh, well, you're off here, so everything else is wrong." Well, no, that's what the evidence is. Everything here is going to back up everything else that's being presented through scriptures. So yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, Katrina.
Yeah, pretty much it's a straw man argument. He's just trying to say all this stuff,
Yeah.
but not realizing there's nothing new under the sun. We are in exile. We are not in the land. Therefore, we do not have, we haven't maintained it. And especially the JEWs of the day haven't preserved it either, as we all know.
Yeah, correct. All right. So yeah, thanks for bringing it up. And we'll go ahead and continue here. These pictures, apologies for that. But yeah, so this is the brackets here. So next we're going to get into 4Q320. So we're going to see, this is again a screenshot from it. So to display itself from the east and shine in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the fourth day, not Wednesday, of Sabbat. So they called their week Shabbat. This is why we see it was the beginning of the Shabbat, meaning the new week, when Mary was going to the tomb in the New Testament, because they called each week a Shabbat. So the sons of Gamul in the first month of the first year, and then blank or vacate. Then the fifth day of the week of Yediah. So what we're going to see here, there's no moon phases or Gregorian days in the original text. There is no full moon here written. So, apologies. So to display itself from the east and shine in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the fourth day of the week, the sons of Gamul in the first month of the first year. So we will see in Giza Vermes and Michael Wise's editions, they'll insert full moon or some kind of moon phases in this entire scroll. They don't actually exist in the scroll. Neither does the word dukkha. But what rises in the east and shines in the center of the sky in spring? Jubilees tells us it's the stars. So Jubilees, chapter 12, verse 16 through 18. So he's describing the Jubilee here. And in the 6th week, in the 5th year, Abraham sat up throughout the night on the head of the 7th month. Most will mistranslate this as new moon. This is Ha-Chodesh, the head of the 7th month, to observe what? The stars from evening to the morning, in order to see what would be the character of the year with regard to the rains. So we see it's these stars coming from evening and morning. So 4Q324D, again, column 1, the beginning of the first month on day 4 Tekufa. As we see here, 4Q320, also supported by many other scrolls, such as 4Q324D, 4QMMT, and the sundial in Qumran. The sign in the heavens is when the equinox Tekufa occurs in the springtime, the straight line method. So 4Q324D, column 1. Again, a screenshot from it. The beginning of the first month on week day 4, Tekufa. On the 4th is Sabbath, on the 11th is Sabbath. And it'll continue to show the important days, festivals. So there are many verses that will allude to day 4 and the equinox being the sign from the sun, from Yahuah, to begin the counting of months. Exodus 27:13, the east side of the courtyard towards the sunrise. Exodus 38:13, the east side towards the sunrise. Exodus 40:1-2, Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, on the first day of the first month, you are to raise up the dwelling place of the tent of meeting. They would know it by that very sign we spoke about. 2 Chronicles 29:3-17, in the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of Yahuah and repaired them. So this is verse 3, and this is verse 17. And they began to set apart the first day of the first month. And on, look, the 8th day of the month, they came to the porch of Yahuah. And they set apart the house of Yahuah in 8 days. No coincidence. 1 Samuel 25, and David said to Jehonathan, see, tomorrow is the head of the month, HaChodesh, not new moon, and I ought to sit with the sovereign to eat. But let me go, and I shall hide in the field until the 3rd day at evening. Why? Because that 3rd day after the head of the month is a Sabbath day. So he hid in the field till the Sabbath was over. Then he did his traveling back. Exodus 12:1-2. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, saying, this month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. So we're going to see a distinction between months and years. Pay close attention. Job 38:4-5. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if you have understanding. Who appointed its measurements, if you know? Or who stretched the line upon it? Straight line shadow, straight line sunbeam. James 1:16-17. Do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change or turning shadow. So no turning shadow on the equinox. So using a stick and marking the end of that shadow throughout the day, from sunrise to sunset, the sun's shadow will cast a straight line during that day, the Tekufah. That shadow will curve or shift on other days and not be straight, just like we see in the menorah. 4th command, keep the Sabbath. 4th day of creation, sun, moon, and stars created. The 4th gate, as we see in Enoch, the Gadol Dalet, 4th letter of the alphabet, it means door or passageway. 4th menorah branch, longest, straightest branch. 3 branches later, 7th branch, the Shabbat. So the word Tekufah can be found in our Bibles as well. It means the equinoxes and solstices, or the turning of the year and its seasons. The Tekufah, the equinox, is a celestial event designed by Yahuah as a sign for determining time, not a man-made Gregorian week. There are 4 Tekufahs each year, the vernal and autumn equinox, and the summer and winter solstices. The spring equinox determines day 4 of creation week, when a monthly cycle restarts for the year. So Strong's, Strong's Concordance, this is 8622, Tekufah. It means circuit, cycle, season, revolution. We're also going to see meaning a revolution, a course, or a lapse. So this is from the Strong's Lexicon. This is going to be from, the Jewish Encyclopedia themselves. So I'm not going to mention the Babylonian names. We're just going to go through the Tekufahs and what they acknowledge that they are. So the first Tekufah is the vernal equinox, when the sun enters Aries, which we are going to show here in a moment. Second Tekufah is the summer solstice. Third Tekufah is the autumn equinox. Fourth Tekufah is the winter solstice. Again, from the Jewish Encyclopedia. So Psalms 19, 1-9. The Shamayim are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the firmament is declaring the work of his hand, which is creation week. Day to day pours forth speech. Night to night reveals knowledge. Day and night are separated, beginning in the morning. There is no speech, and there are words. Their voices are not heard. The luminaries are silent witnesses. Their line has gone out through all the earth. Again, more straight line shadow. And their words to the end of the world. In them he put up a tent for the sun. and it is like a bridegroom coming out of his room. The spring equinox, Tekufa, marking day 4 of creation week. It rejoices to run a strong man to run the path. The 364-day count is rising from one end of the Shamayim and its circuit to the other end, the Tekupa, solstices and equinox, and nothing is hidden from its heat. So again, more verifications in scriptures. The sun, moon, and stars are speaking, but have no voice, meaning they're showing us these signs in the heavenly markers, the yearly dividers, seasonal dividers. So again, we get that sun rising right there in the morning, making that straight line sunbeam, marking day 4. As it's doing this, it's shining into the temple and the tabernacle and lighting up the Holy of Holies right in the center. The priests would know exactly what they were looking for, and there was no need to track a straight line like we would have to today to determine it. So Ezekiel 43, 1-5, and he led me to the gate facing east, and see the esteem of Elohim of Israel came from the way of the east. And his voice was like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone from his esteem. The earth shone from his esteem right here. And it was like the appearance of the vision which I saw. So we'll come down here. And the esteem of Yahuah came into the house by way of the gate facing east. And the rock took me up and brought me into the inner courtyard. And see, the esteem of Yahuah filled the house, the inner courtyard, and his esteem filling the house, marking day 4 of the week on the spring equinox. So Ezekiel is a perfect explanation of this picture above, of the Tekufa equinox, lighting up the Holy of Holies in the temple and the tabernacle, marking day 4 of creation week. So Enoch 74:12, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they, the sun and the stars, do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto everlasting, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. Wisdom of Solomon 7:17-19. It is he who gave me true knowledge of the forces of nature, what the earth is made of, how the elements behave, how the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun, the changing seasons, the constellations, the sun and the stars, and the cycles of the years. Again, there's no moon here. So we see Enoch 74, the sun and stars bring in the years. The moon is not mentioned in this verse at all. And it's also supported by Wisdom of Solomon, as we see. The sun and the stars determines the calendar. This is more evidence that the author's false assertions of moon phases in the Mishmarot, the priestly cycles, are incorrect in bringing in the years. And the verses all around Enoch 74:12 all state the moon will be off 10 days every year and only has 354 days in a year, proving that translations that falsely insert moon into Enoch 74:12 are in error. How can the moon bring in a 364-day year when it only has 354 days? Not to mention the plural they do not advance or delay is a big clue as well, as when the moon is inserted falsely, it still says they in that phrase for the singular word moon. Job chapter 9, verse 7-10, who commands the sun? And it does not rise. And he seals up the stars, stretching out the Shamayim by himself, and treading upon the waves of the sea. Who made Ash, which is Arcturus, Cassiel, Orion, and Chimna, or Pleiades? Stars, sun and stars, and the rooms of the south, who perform great and unsearchable deeds and innumerable wonders. Again in Job 38, 31-33. So do you bind up the bands of Chimna, again Pleiades, or loosen the cords of Cassiel, Orion? Do you bring out the constellations in its seasons, the 4 seasonal leaders we read about in Enoch, of the stars? Or do you lead the bear, which is Ursa Major, with its sons? Do you know the laws of the Shamayim? Or do you apply their rule over the earth? Again, we see sun and stars are bringing in all these things. No moon. The calendar is determined by the movements of the sun and stars, as we can see all throughout scriptures. They determine the years, when they begin and end. We cannot trust Rome or the synagogue of Hasatan to have kept Yahuah's true Sabbath day or calendar. In all of our studies, we have found through scripture the Sabbath day is not always on a Saturday. In fact, you will not find the word Saturday in scriptures at all. The divider day every year is what separates the years and divides the numbering of days perfectly matching the markers and heavenly signs Yahuah himself has given us to determine these things. Also, in addition, these verses in Ezekiel and Amos show us the 4 heads of the 4 seasonal months are Sabbath days as well, like the 7th-day Sabbath. Just like the weekly Sabbath, no work, no buying or selling. The days Noah ordained in Jubilees chapter 6 as a memorial, therefore showing there is never more than 7 days between Sabbath days. Again, this is going to be the words HaChodesh that we always constantly see mistranslated to new moon, even in Jubilees. This is the same word in Jubilees that they mistranslate to new moon. So it's HaChodesh, head of months. So Ezekiel 46:1, thus said the Adon Yahuah. So the gate of the inner courtyard facing east is shut the 6 days of work. But on the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath day, it is opened. And on the HaChodesh, head of months, it is opened. So this gate is showing, look, the Sabbath day and these 4 Noah ordained heads of months are also Sabbath days. To back that up is Amos 8, verse 5 through 6, saying, when does the HaChodesh, head of months, pass so that we can sell grain? And the Sabbath, so that we can trade our wheat. So again, we see the people are moaning and groaning. Why? Because on the head of the months, not new moons, they can't sell their grain. Showing that it is backing up Ezekiel, that it is a day like the weekly Sabbath day, a Sabbath day. So before we get into this next section, I do have a couple videos here. And it's going to be from YouTube, and it's going to be the original videos that we shared on our last presentation, but the actual videos. So hopefully people will be able to see them more clearly than rather, the TikTok video. So this first one here, I'm going to play. It's going to be the markers in the heavens, and it's going to be from discussion 19 on our YouTube playlist here. In our discussions, it's from discussion 19, and it's going to be showing the markers in the heavens that Marissa has found that line up exactly to this calendar. So I'll go ahead and mute my mic, and then I'll go ahead and play this. It's probably going to be about 15 minutes or so long here, 15, 20 minutes. But I'll go ahead and play it now.
It just looks so small, Jeremy. Yeah, that's good. Maybe zoom out a little bit more. Yeah, and lower it. All right, so we can see there that was March 20th, guys. So, all right, we could just leave it there, Jeremy. So I was driving home in the car the other day just to kind of share how this came to me. And I'm driving, and I wasn't thinking too hard about this, but we all have a level of understanding that the constellations are for the months. And I've looked into the various time periods, such as tropical time and sidereal time and astronomical time. We know astronomical time is falsehood because they use 13 constellations along the ecliptic, which none of them are in an even order. And if anybody has ever looked into how the Mazzaroth are months, it's 30 degrees for all 12 of them, and then that's how you get to 360. So I'm like, all right, but why do they say for the tropical year, which lines up with the equinox, why do they say that the sun is in Aries? Because when you look up at the sky, what you're actually viewing is the luminaries in sidereal time. So in sidereal time, the sun is in Pisces, and that comes in at our divider day, which is really cool. So sidereal time reflects the outer wheel, where we see the divider day before creation week. However, tropical time reflects the inner wheel, where our seasons are and our months are. And so they say, oh, the sun's in Aries at the equinox. Well, how is that so? And our good sister Adrian, she has been, it has been pressed upon her to look towards the west. And so that kind of like dawned on me as I was driving in my car, and I'm like, well, she says look in the west. What's in the west? And so it just came to me there where I'm like, all right, so we view the sign in the east to begin our years, right? So we're viewing the sun rising at 90 degrees east. We're making our marks all day, and that sun sets at 270 degrees west, and it makes the straight line shadow. And we're like, great, this is hallelujah. It's the first day of our year. And then our witnesses come in. And the first witness that we'll see, which, Jeremy, if you could flip the picture to the very last one I shared with Leo. Sorry to do that to you. Yeah. All right. So right at sunset, this is, I use this app called Sky Tonight. And so we're right at sundown. So I just know when I screenshot this, the sun is in the west. It just went below the horizon. And so I turned to the east. And the first constellation that is rising is Leo. And Leo is, in the story of the Mazzaroth, the sign of the tribe of Judah is first in the east. So is this our month? No, this is not our month, but another witness that the tribe of Judah is entering in first at the beginning of our year here. And so then an hour after sunset, when you can see all of the stars now, that's where that first picture comes in, Jeremy, where we see Aries is in the west, over the horizon an hour after sunset. And so this is the sign of our month. Our month's sign will be in the west an hour after sunset. And so the tabernacle in the heavens rotates throughout the night. So eventually at a certain time of night, this will rotate out. So this is always in the west for the month 1. So what's really cool is at this point in time, 1 hour after sunset, if you pan around to the east and now see what is in the east, go to the next picture. 1 hour after sunset. No, it's not that one. Next picture. Yeah, this is what we'll see. So if you guys can see the horizon line there, you can see that Virgo is poking her head up right there. Can you pan to the date on the top? So this is right on March 20th. This is the next sign you're going to see in the east. Once it's an hour after sunset, Leo is above Virgo at this point. But when you can witness that month sign in the west and you pan over and look in the east, this is what you see is Virgo's head poking up. And now go to the previous picture, Jeremy, and let me see the top with the date. Okay, so this is now March 31st is the equivalent of the 12th day of the first month. And zoom in on that Spica star for me. So an hour after sunset, we see Spica is still under the horizon on the 12th day of the first month, an hour after sunset. Now, why is the Spica star so important? It's because she's holding a sheaf of barley in her hand. And the Spica star is representative of the barley. All right, so go to the next picture and then the next picture. And let's see zoom in on Spica there. So now we're at April 1st, 1 hour after sunset, and Spica is now over the horizon. So this is the 13th day of the first month, which is 2 weeks after the spring intercalary day, bringing in the spring season. So we see the Spica star over the horizon, ripening the barley. And go to the next picture and zoom in. Here is April 2nd. Here's our Passover, our day of Passover. The barley is now Aviv by the time of Passover. So I feel like this is an incredible witness in the stars to that we are in the right season, that we are in the correct month, we're in the correct rotation in the tabernacles with seeing Judah come in first, and our barley is ripe by the time of Passover. Hallelujah.
Wow, that is awesome. Praise Yahuah.
Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything?
I was looking at the same thing, but I was looking at the beginning of the year rather than the Passover. And what I noticed was in the west, and I was looking in the west again, the same as you, I noticed that the first star on Orion's belt hit exactly west on the start of the year, which I just thought was interesting. I think that when we're looking at the stars, you're right, Marissa, that we do need to look west and we do need to look east. I think the story is told on both sides.
Absolutely. See, Ken, I thought you would appreciate this. I was so glad you joined right before I was going to present it.
Praise Yah. Awesome.
And just to throw in a little bit of useless information, the Sphinx that looks to the east is a woman at the front and a lion at the back.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Which is exactly what we see when the year begins, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to find Orion's belt on my on my app here to see what you were talking about. You said it's at sunset or sunrise?
Oh crikey, no, it's at sun. It comes down. The belt again. I looked at this a few days back. The belt comes down towards the west.
Okay, I see him there. Okay.
And if you watch the west marker, you'll see that the first belt of the first star of his belt. Again, there's a reason why the pyramids are there, because it actually copies the shape of Orion's belt. But I saw that at the beginning of the year, the most easterly star on the belt hit the west perfectly at the beginning.
Wow, praise Yah.
All right, I'm going to send that picture in the chat for you guys. I took a screenshot.
Yes, and I'll show it here on screen. And there's also another video I wanted to share, just a quick video, not right now I'm going to share it, but after this, it's going to confirm this calendar as well. And it's just showing, the blood moon eclipse and the earthquake that happened on April 3rd, which is the first day of unleavened bread. Boom.
So I think, Marissa, you're absolutely right. I think now's the time that we should start looking at the stars and building understanding of how the months, certainly. But I also think that there's much more information that we don't know about now. And I think once we start tickling this, working with this, we're going to see ourselves given more wisdom.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Praise you.
Yeah, I did go through and I took screenshots of all 12 months and like what that Mazzaroth looks like in the west an hour after sunset. And they're all right there. It's always a different one at that time on the first day of the next month. It's so cool.
Wow, amazing. Confirmation after confirmation.
I'm going to send them in the chat, Jeremy. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries.
And if my memory serves me correct, what you're seeing now on the west, you'll see in the east 6 months later.
Yes. Yep. All right. So, Jeremy, I started those at April since we already put March on there, and like using the dates on the biblical calendar. So, and then the last month I did was the first month of next year.
Awesome. I need to save them all to get them to share.
Okay. Yeah, I like being able to just show everybody this because it's instead of like a trust me, bro. And you gotta look at the order of them too, Jeremy, because I'm looking at how they came in and like even though I clicked them in order on my phone and then I like shared them and click send, they're all out of order in Telegram. Hey, this is a huge turnout today. This is awesome. Praise Yah.
Oh yeah, praise Yahuah, 100%.
I love you, Marissa. You're a fine sister doing great work.
Thank you. I love you all too. Yeah, I gotta get one of your pegboards, Ken.
I actually have the templates. He sent me the templates for the pegboard. So all you just need is a board and you stick on the template. I have to find those.
Oh, that's really cool. Just like another fun thing to do with the kids, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. I woke up one night. I think it was about, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, and I was just basically yes. I just went downstairs and I plotted it all out, and it was absolutely wonderful. I'd been reading Enoch and trying to work out about the year, which we knew at 30 days, 30 days, 31 days, 30 days, 30 days, 31 days, and I did no mathematical calculation whatsoever. I woke up and I had a feeling that this was correct. And I went downstairs and I just plotted it out on a piece of paper, and that was it. It was nothing of me.
Yeah, all praise to the Most High. All right, so I think I got all of them downloaded. Give me 1 second, I'll share them here. Okay, just let me know if that's the correct one.
No, look at the date on the top. It should be April 1st. Well, not April 1st, but April is 1st.
Okay, yeah. Hold on 1 sec. So April. There we go.
All right, so that's April 19th. So it's the first day of the second month. And we see Taurus there an hour after sunset on the western horizon. And so, Jeremy, as you flip through these months, like show the date at the top and then the constellation that's there. It's a different one every month. So May would be next.
Yeah, very interesting.
Awesome job.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome job. Yeah, May, July. I know it's not in order here on screen. Here, I think this might be the easiest way, even though it's not in order. Yeah, June 19th, we have Cancer. October, Scorpio, whatever. October. Wait, did I skip one? No. And then July, Leo. Wow, that's really amazing, honestly. Yeah, May, Gemini.
And are these all? Sorry, are these all looking to the west, Marissa?
Yes, and it's always an hour after sunset. Like I looked at like when the sun would set on each month, and then I just like fast forwarded it by an hour, and so that's what it looks like when you look to the west for the beginning of each month.
Yeah, August. Wow.
Marissa, do you find that they're moving along the horizon? So if you're looking west, they'll be moving north.
No, they will go under the horizon at a certain point in the night because they like rotate throughout the night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I just wonder.
Like they go in the direction with the sun. The stars rise in the east and set in the west.
And they move 1 degree every hour, right?
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I'm not sure about like how many degrees each hour, but I just know that it turns in the sky.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, as we look at the sun, now we know that the sun is going to be moving from the south to the north. So it will move along the horizon from the east now and slowly, steady move towards the north. I'm wondering whether the start of the year is exactly west or is it opposite the sun, if you know what I mean. Which would mean it was just before the west.
Wow. That's really fascinating. They're like all like right there in that same spot too.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool how you can observe the sun sign first and then you get the stars. And then that verse in Enoch where it says the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly.
Absolutely.
That's the evidence right there. Boom. All the witnesses. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Marissa. This is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Sir.
Okay, praise to the Most High.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, really amazing work for sure. So there's a video I wanted to share. It's just a couple minutes long, but it's going to also, be more confirmation of this calendar right here, Yahuah's calendar. So he uses the J name, which, whatever, but we all know who he's talking about. So this is not for about pronunciations, things like that. This is just historical proof that we're going to show here. Let me just share it, and then it's only 1:58, so we'll just share it real quick. You guys can see.
Yes.
On the day Jesus was crucified, that the sun darkened and the moon turned to blood, and science confirmed it. Well, that's next on the trumpet. All that and an earthquake on April 3rd, 33 AD. So that happened. April 3rd, 33 AD. And yes, there was an earthquake on that day. The people in the Old Testament and the New Testament said the exact same thing about the blood moon. That's also in the end time prophecy of the book of Revelation. They call that a blood moon. That all happened on the day that he was crucified. That's right there on the 33. 33, right there. The book of Matthew, chapter 27, tells you all about the earthquake. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So there was an earthquake, a blood moon, an eclipse, and the graves were opened, and they walked into Jerusalem. I was trying to figure out why April the 2nd might be such a big deal, and that was the day that Jesus was arrested. Some people believe that Jesus was crucified in 30 AD. However, there's not an earthquake or an eclipse that coincide with those dates. I go by Ezekiel 33:3, and that scripture says that when I see the sword fall upon the land, I blow the trumpet and warn the people, so I can follow the trumpet for more. And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.
All right. So I know it was a bit hard to read there at the end, but April 3rd is going to be the 15th day of the first month, the first day of unleavened bread. So this next video is also Marissa. It's only going to be about maybe 6 minutes or so, but it's going to explain the next subject we're going to get into just after this. And we probably got about 30 minutes left of the calendar presentation here. And then we'll go on with the questions and all that. So let me go ahead and mute, and I'll play this. And I'll share the link to the video here as well.
So, see that picture? Yeah. Okay. So we had a brother Sean sent this drawing to us. That this was a drawing that Yah gave him when he drew it up. And when he presented the calendar that he understood to us, I found this picture just so intriguing. And so I'd like to bring your attention to the top of the menorah here. And so we have 7 branches, where the middle one is number 4. And we see this like bright yellow straight line that goes right up to number 4 in the middle. And so this is the understanding that we all are in agreement on, that the straight line shadow makes is the sign for the 4th day of creation week. And so what perplexed me, though, was that if you look in the middle here at these numbers, 6 is really bolded, but it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have these little boxes with the spaces in between the branches. But what was so perplexing to me was that this yellow straight line went between gates 3 and 4. And so oftentimes when people only consider the solar cycle, they are believing that the equinox is day 0 and thus beginning their year the day after. But my question was, how can both of these coincide? How can they coexist together, where the equinox is day 0 or is between the 3rd and the 4th gate, and yet also is the 4th day of creation week? And so I'd just like to read to you guys Enoch 72:5. And the chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. Now, whenever we read this particular verse, we understand that this is a day in and of itself, where the sun is returning through the north and shining in the face of the heaven. And so we can extrapolate that this is day 0, because Enoch goes on to count 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, and he counts 364 days. And it has to be a day 0 because we're told it's 364 days of the year. So 0 doesn't have a numerical value, but it does have a place in the counting of days. And so I'm sure you're thinking at this point, like, but Marissa, that's not the day 0 that we've all been understanding. Well, family, it is day 0 of the solar cycle. And so, Jeremy, if you could you go to the next picture, please? So there are 2 counts. And the of here is creation week that gives us the Sabbath day. And so when we recognize day 0 on creation week, which is 316, it moves the equinox into that place of day 4 of the week. And this is the only way that those 2 counts can coincide and be true at the same time. So you'll see in the second section, solar cycle and the seasons. If we don't have the solar cycle in this position, then our seasons will become dislodged. Where if we read Enoch 72 and we think that we should be beginning with the equinox specifically, well, then Enoch 72's seasonal days, the quarter division leaders will be dislodged. But this is a separate cycle. Enoch was given the cycles of the luminaries. And so he's describing to us the solar cycle. Now, creation week and the Sabbath day, the references that we can make really come from Jubilees, where in Jubilees we're told to count 52 weeks of days. And so there are actually 3 wheels going on here. So we see the first wheel, the most outer wheel. Jeremy, you can pan to the next picture. The most outer creation week. And so creation week begins with Genesis 1 through 2, when the earth was formless and void and darkness was upon the face of the deep. That is our divider day. And so that lands on 316, and it's after the 52nd Sabbath of the year. So we are counting 52 weeks of days from creation week. And there are multiple scriptures written in Jubilees where it says from the beginning of creation, from the time of creation, giving credence to this creation week and the count of it being important. And so when we recognize that there's 2 different wheels going on, we see that middle wheel is the solar cycle that began on the 4th day when the sun, the moon, and the stars were made. And so that is that straight line day, the 4th day of creation week. What's really interesting, though, is that we also know of the prophetic year spoken of in Daniel is 360 days. And those days are counted between the equinox and the equilux. So that is 321 to 315. That gives us 360 days for our prophetic year. And now I wholeheartedly understand where our brothers and sisters in Messiah choose to reckon their days by the solar cycle. However, I'd like to implore you to consider this. The scripture where in Ezekiel 8, where the priests have their backs to the temple and they're facing the east, bowing to the sun. They're worshiping the sun as a luminary. And these are what our lunar calendar brothers and sisters are also doing, except with the moon. And they worship the moon on the new moon days, and they blow the shofar at the moon, and they're looking at her and honoring her in that way. And so when we recognize, though, that there are multiple cycles that are overlaid here for the calendar, and when we recognize that creation week comes first, we are no longer going to reckon our days by honoring the creation, but rather we'll be honoring the Creator and all that He did. Wow, Marissa. Oh.
All right, praise Yah. So let me get the rest of our discussion or presentation up here, and we'll continue on.
Wait 1 second. Marissa, do you want to add anything to that? Oh, wait, she's not in the group. Okay. She jumped in and she jumped out. I'm sorry.
I'm a little lost. Can we go a little slower? Maybe dumb it down for me just a tad?
Yeah, so let me finish this up and stop the recording, then we can get into the questions for sure. So, yeah, I think Marissa left the chat, and she said she'll come back. She didn't like to hear her own voice, apparently. So, all right. So we're going to see there is a weekly, yearly count, which is 52 weeks of 7 days, which equals 364 days. So which the book of Jubilees tells us this is our yearly count starting at creation. So Jubilees 4:17 through 19. And he, Enoch, was the first among men that were born on earth who learned the writing and knowledge and wisdom, and who wrote down the signs of the heavens, the signs of the Shamayim, according to the order of their months. So this is Jubilees confirming the book of Enoch is talking about the order of the months. That men might know the seasons of the years according to the order of their separate months. And he was first to write a witness, and he witnessed to the sons of men among the generations of the earth, and recounted the weeks of the Jubilees, and made them known to the days of the years, and put an order to the months, and recounted the Sabbaths of the years. The yearly Sabbath divided. There we see the Sabbaths of the years again, as we made known to him. And what was and what shall be, he saw in a vision of his sleep, as it shall happen to the children of men throughout their generations, until the day of judgment. So while Enoch is describing the yearly monthly count of 364 days, 12 months of 30 days, plus the 4 intercalated seasonal days, which also equals 364. So we can see there, written in Jubilees, they're speaking that Enoch is talking about the order of the months, because it's the whole cycle of the sun, the moon, and the stars, which is used to track the monthly and the seasonal count, which Jubilees states above. We see 2 different 364-day counts, which gives us the wheel within the wheel and the yearly overlap cycle of the weekly count and the monthly count, of 364. Each start on a different day of creation week. Our yearly divider day is before day 1 of creation week, as Genesis 1, 1 through 2, Jubilees 1, 4Q394 all show us. This is our yearly 364-day count. The monthly divider day will happen on the straight line shadow or the spring equinox Tekufa. So 2 cycles of the year, which is the 2 wheels, 2 divider days, 1 for each cycle, to keep them lined up perfectly each year. This is why there are some who claim the day after the equinox is when we should start our count. But we should be following the Creator, Yahuah, and start our counting of days when he did, on day 1 of creation week, not following the creation and starting our count midweek. Both counts work together to keep the yearly cycle hitting the heavenly markers each year, year after year. So I made a little chart here. This is going to show us basically what we're speaking of as well. So I have the Gregorian dates here on the top row. So this is going to be our weekly creation week count, weekly count of the year. So day 364 is going to be March 15th, which is the last Sabbath day of the year, the 7th day of the week. 316 is going to be day 0, the divider day. 317, which they mark as St. Patty's Day, is going to be day 1 of 364 and also day 1 of the week. And we have day 2, day 3, that seasonal divider day on 319. 320 is going to be day 4 of the week and the 364-day count. That's where we're going to see the Tekupa and the equinox, and it's marking the head of the months. And then we have our 3 days later, which is day 7 of creation week, the Sabbath day. So down here, we're going to have our monthly count. So this is day 360 of the monthly cycle, the prophetic year. That's the year we see in Daniel and Revelation, the 12 months of 30 days only. And it happens to fall on the last Sabbath of the year, the 28th of month 12. Then we have the yearly divider day, and it's not counted in the years or the months. So we have day 361 of the monthly cycle. Day 362 of the monthly cycle is the 29th of month 12. Day 363 is the 30th of month 12. Day 364 is that seasonal divider day, or the 31st day of month 12. Then we have day 0 monthly cycle, which is day 1, month 1, which the Tekupa is marking, just as Marissa has presented in what we just watched. Then we have day 1 of 364, which is actually the second day of month 1, and it continues on to repeat. So what we're seeing is the two witnesses that are bringing in the yearly cycle. So we have the weekly yearly cycle of 364 days and the monthly yearly cycle of 364 days as well. So this top block here is going to represent the 12 months of 30 days plus the 4 seasonal divider days, which equals 364 days. This bottom one here is going to be our weekly 364 day count. So 52 weeks of 7 days. These are the exact same length, but they have this overlap each year. So as you can see, I marked the light blue divider days, dark blue Sabbath days, which also gives us this pretty interesting pattern as well. But 52 weeks of 7 days is equal to 12 months of 30 days, plus the 4 seasonal divider, as you can see. Just like bricks or fabric, bricks in a wall, they're the same length, but you overlay them to get that strength. So Jubilees 25:16, and may he make your sons many during your life, and may they arise according to the number of the months of the year, the separation between months and years. May their sons become many and great beyond the stars of the Shamayim. So Enoch 72, 4-6. First, there goes forth the great light, named the sun, and its circumference is like the circumference of the heavens, the Shamayim, and he's quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heavens, the Shamayim, and returns through the north in order to reach the east. And it's so guided that he comes to that portal, the one in the heavens, and he shines in the face of the heavens. And then in this way, he rises in the first month in the great fourth portal, which is the fourth. So what we're seeing, verse 5 of Enoch 72, we can see it shows the sun enters into the portal of heaven, shines in heaven. Then in that same way, he's rising into the great fourth portal. 2 portals, one in heaven, the monthly cycle divider. The other is a great fourth portal, starting the monthly count. Sorry, that should say yearly. Actually, let me fix that. Okay. So, Enoch 72:32, on that day, the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly to its days, 364. So what we can see is Enoch here is defining an equal lux, equal day and equal night. This doesn't happen on the straight line shadow day. And in fact, from Enoch's perspective, because when he was looking at this, he was looking at the view that Yahuah had, so there was no refraction or, there was no atmospheric interlensing or anything that. So he was seeing the monthly equal day and equal night, which would be actually the 19th. Here on Earth, we're going to see it on the 16th in Israel. Specific location, March 16th in Israel, is going to be exactly equal day and equal night. So here in Enoch 72, he's defining the equilux, which happens before the equinox or Tekufa. The Tekufa is the heavenly marker for not only day 4 of creation week, but also the divider day of the monthly cycle, not the yearly, the monthly cycle each year. So as mentioned before, Enoch is describing the cycle of the sun, moon, and stars each year, and thus showing us that specific wheel of the yearly cycle. So he's showing us the monthly divisions. This is why many will be confused and will have their divider day on the equinox, following the creation, like the priests who had their backs turned on the temple to look at the rising sun, and not our creator Yahuah. So again, we're seeing 2 wheels, the weekly 364-day count and the monthly 364-day count, which both work together to keep each year lined up perfectly with what Yahuah tells us with his heavenly markers. So Enoch describes the yearly cycle of the sun, moon, and stars, while Jubilees describes the yearly count of days starting on day 1, week of creation, when the light came to be. 52 weeks of 7 days exactly. The sons of Zadok clearly saw these two wheels and used them together to determine Yahuah's true Zadok calendar. The two witnesses. So what we're seeing, Yachin, it literally means creation. Or as we see, he shall establish. So again, this is going to be the two pillars, which again, Freemasons stole and twisted the meaning of. So this is not Freemasonic. This is actually in scriptures, what we can see in Chronicles and all that, these two pillars of the temple. So Yachin is the divider day, the time before the counting of days. Genesis 1 through 2, also 4Q394, the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this first pillar is day 0, marking the beginning of creation. Then we have days 1, 2, and 3 in between. The second pillar, Boaz, is marking day 4 of creation week. So it's always keeping days 1, 2, and 3 right here intact. So this is marked by the Tekufa, the equinox, straight line. The sun rising in the morning, lighting up the Holy of Holies right here in the temple. Again, the verses are Exodus 40, 1 through 2, Ezekiel 43, Jubilees 2:21, Dead Sea Scrolls 4Q324D, 4Q320. So Boaz means in its strength. What's in its strength? The esteem of Yahuah coming up and lighting up the courtyard, just like we see. Yeah, I see. Almost finished here, and then we'll get to the questions. So the Zadok priestly calendar consists of a 364-day year divided into 7-day weeks, 52 of them, in 12 months of 32 days each, except for one extra day in the last month of each quarter 4 times a year. The calendar accommodates the 365.24 days of the solar cycle that we physically experience. The 4 seasons are spring, summer, fall, and winter. When the 364-day count has been accomplished, as instructed by Enoch, Jubilees, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, you will arrive with an extra day for the physical year every year, and another day on the 4th year. This cycle repeats continually. The divider days are not counted as part of the 7-day week or numbered. They are simply lived. This is why we live in a 365.24-day world, but count 364 days to do as Enoch has commanded for the calendar. The calendar accounts for the full year of 365.24 days with the divider day, day 0, the null day. First day of creation week starts the count of 364 days at the heavenly portal after the last Sabbath of the year, thus keeping the calendar on season every year and the weeks and months perfectly overlapping each year. Day 1 of month 1 will always be on the 4th day of the 7-day creation week, the spring equinox Tekufa. It is not the Wednesday of the Roman or Jewish calendar. This true sequence of the 4th day recognizes the creation of the sun as read in Genesis, the 4th day of creation, the luminaries, and it is marked by its sign, the straight line shadow, the esteem of Yahuah, the Tekufa. The Zadok day starts at sunrise. A biblical day starts at sunrise, recognizing the creation of light, not the beginning of the void darkness. It is not possible for the Saturday of today to be the 7th-day Sabbath continually, week by week and year by year, because Yahuah's counting starts from day 1, week of creation. The Tekufa will always mark day 4. It's important to note the weekly 7th day is the day that was made holy, not Saturday, marked on the Roman and Jewish calendars. The 7th-day Sabbath is on a fixed day of the week on the Zadok 364-day counted calendar. It is exactly 52 weeks, not 52 weeks and 2 days, as with the Julian or Gregorian calendar. And it's never 53 weeks of 7 days. So one needs to remember that on March 20th every year is the spring Tekufa or equinox. So Sister Erin Ryan and Alan Pizarak are 2 witnesses. They have both been tracking the Tekufa nearly a decade, and they've always tracked it on March 20th, according to 2 witnesses. Also in our own group, several of us also tracked it on March 20th this year as well. So that day is the 4th day of a new yearly 7-day week. This day celebrates the creation's 4th day, on which Yahuah Elohim made the luminaries. The extra day after the last Sabbath is not counted after the 364 days completed for the full year. So we start our counting at 0. So 0, Genesis 1, 1 through 2. The rest of Genesis 1 gives us the standard for our weekly cycle. So almost finished here. So the priestly cycles and where they came from. Yes, we see them in Chronicles, but it is rabbinical writings that pair up moon cycles to their priestly cycles, and many attempt to apply the same method to the priestly cycles found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This will not work. As we have seen above as well, those are authors' insertions. As quoted from the rabbinic writings, which is Mishnah and the Tosefta, so containing hereby in connection with the connotation of the Mishnah and the Mamadot, which is the priestly cycles, with the text better than that of the Mishnah. The establishment of 24 priestly courses and the order of their service as described in 1 Chronicles 24 was meant to be a permanent arrangement. Whether this order was established, when this order was established and at what time the list was made is not known. So in any event, it was a late development, at least 1 or 2 generations after the time of the high priest Joachim, to which the list of priestly clans in Nehemiah is attributed. Various scholars date this list at the beginning of the Hasmonean, the usurper's era, since Jehoram, representative of the Hasmonean clan, who observed the Babylonian calendar, heads the list in 1 Chronicles 24. Whereas in Nehemiah, his name is 16th on the list. So you can see he even changed the order to put his name first. Hasmonean usurpers. So the moon phases in the DSS, Dead Sea Scrolls, are authors' insertions. When we look at a comparison of the complete Dead Sea Scrolls and other translations, we will see many of the moon phases found in the complete Dead Sea Scrolls are authors' insertions and do not exist in the original text. So this from Giza Vermes, the complete Dead Sea Scrolls. Again, so we read this earlier. We saw exactly what was said. So this is 4Q320 from the complete Dead Sea Scrolls, Giza Vermes. So he even changes the translation wording a bit. So to show itself from the east, and to cause it to shine in the middle of heaven, in the foundation of the creation, from evening until morning. Then he puts in quotations, there is a full moon, meaning author's insertion. On the 4th day in the week of the sons of Gamul, in the 1st month of the 1st year. So as you can see, the parentheses are author's insertions made by Giza Vermes, just as we also see in many Bible translations, meaning they are insertions from the author's interpretation of what a particular verse can mean. If we use Florentino Garcia Martinez, the Dead Sea Scroll translated, we will see, to display itself from the east and shine in the center of the sky at the base of the vault from evening to morning on the 4th day of the week of the sons of Gamul in the 1st month of the 1st year. And again, we saw this scroll itself with the screenshots above. So this is evidence the author's false insertions of the moon phases in the Mishmarot are incorrect in bringing in the years. We also saw 4Q320 is not speaking about the moon, it's about the stars, which Jubilees verifies. So how can the moon bring in a 364-day year when it only has 354 days? The calendar is determined by the movements of the sun and stars, as we can see all throughout scriptures, and with Enoch 74:12 and Wisdom of Solomon 7:17 through 19. So this is going to be from Michael Wise's commentary in a new translation from Michael Wise and the other author. There's 2 or 3 authors in this translation, but Michael Wise is one of them. So dukkha, beyond the problem of intercalation, another basic area of ignorance hindering complete understanding of the calendars involves the meaning of the recurrent Hebrew term dukkha or duke. So this word describing one of the phases of the moon, which is an author's opinion, Michael Wise's opinion, occurs frequently in the synchronistic calendars, text 72 or 4Q321. The system of lunar observation associated with the term, again, author's opinion, clearly underlies other texts as well, even though they do not mention dukkha. So this is where they admit dukkha does not exist in 4Q320, but they say, oh, well, we're going to take it that it does exist in there. So they're adding words, they're adding to the translation, adding to the text. They're adding moon phases. We can see it was not moon phases, it was stars, the stars. So before discovery of the scrolls, scholars have never encountered this word. We're going to prove this wrong. So knowledge of the ancient Hebrew is far from perfect. Quite a bit of lost vocabulary has been recovered from the scrolls. Really, so Michael Weiss honestly has a lot of explaining to do. You're going to see why here in a moment. So reasoning from etymology, meaning etymologically, the word dukkha, it means carefully examined. That's exactly what it means from the Hebrew, is what they're claiming. So what is being carefully examined? Scholars are still debating the options for dukkha. And a reasonable case can be made for either approach. The authors of this book do not themselves agree on what it means, but have decided to translate according to the full moon option. So they don't agree, scholars don't agree. They just went with, we're going to insert moon phases because we don't know. That's what the Pharisees do. So we're going to do that. Nope. We shouldn't do that. So continuing, hence we will take dukkha to refer to the observation of the first crescent. Michael Weiss from his own commentary. So as you can see, the authors took it upon themselves to declare the meaning as different phases of the moon, when scholars do not agree or know the meaning. Dukkha does not even exist in 4Q320 and only in 4Q321. And we believe it's not a certain phase or sliver of the moon, but rather which gate it is rising and setting opposite the sun as a witness. And it can also be the monthly cycle of the stars, because there's 12 stars. 12 constellations. So the moon is just a witness. It's not a determining factor. So not a single calendar fragment in the Dead Sea Scrolls mentions the Hebrew word Yarach, which is moon. Not once is moon mentioned in any calendrical scroll. So the translators have added the words new moon and full moon in place of the word dukkha, which technically means carefully examined. We see they also claim dukkha was an unknown word, but in fact, this statement is untrue. So we're going to find it in the Strong's, which is Strong's number H1751. Duke, to pound, crush, or pulverize. The word in Hebrew here, same as we see in the Dead Sea Scrolls there. Duke. People want to fight and argue with, oh, well, the duke's a moon phase. It's a sliver moon. It's this and that. Well, what we see the definition here in scriptures, it means to pound, crush, or pulverize, to crumble. This verb is used in the context of describing the action of crumbling or breaking into small pieces. In Daniel 2, verse 35, the word is used to describe the crumbling of the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, which is ground to powder by the wind. So is dukkha actually referring to some kind of offering or something they were making, or some kind, they were doing something to keep track of something in some kind of way? So the thing is, the Dead Sea Scrolls does not explain or describe that. It's definitely not talking about moon phases bringing in the year, for sure. Why? Because Jubilees 2:9, the sun gives us the oath or the sign for days, weeks, months, years, Sabbaths, and Jubilees. We can also see there is a sign for when the weekly Sabbath day will begin, Jubilees 2:21, which we read above. The calendar determines the priestly cycle, not the other way around. There are other years that match up to the same cycle that Gina and Robert present, and others that have presented. So for example, 3/19/1924, the moon was at 98% full. 3/20/1935, the moon was at 100%. 3/21/1962, the moon again at 100%. Definitely not 294 years in between that. So Gina, Robert, and others state this cycle repeats itself every 294 years. This was found to be incorrect. So after careful examination. So the moon cycles have a pattern of 5-6, 5-6, 5-6, 5, 5, 6. So you see, there's a reset cycle, these two fives, that makes it not land in the same order perpetually. So to say that every year 1 and year 4 are the same, and every year 2 and year 5 are the same, or every year 3 and 6 are the same, isn't being truthful. The reason is the solar cycle is 365.24, not 364. The moon doesn't fall behind 10 days every year. Rather, it's 11.24 days every year. We research the moon from every angle to see if it shows us when to intercalate, or if it's for sabbatical and jubilee years. Using the menorah on a Gregorian week is not right, as this method doesn't use the luminaries as a foundation at all, but rather a man-made week. How would the sons of Zadok have known to intercalate to a Wednesday when the Gregorian calendar didn't exist at that time, not for another 300 years? An intercalation is something we should be observing from Yahuah, that is the oath or sign, not a man-made week. If you intercalate a week every 6 years, your years will begin drifting backwards from the Tekufa equinox, and in 100 years your calendar will begin in the winter. Many have chosen this method, in my opinion, because it's the only way that makes the most sense based off the priestly cycles, if you are using a Gregorian week as a foundation. So we have tracked the priestly cycles for the claimed 294 years, and they don't miss a beat, meaning there is no evidence of a week intercalation in the moon. And to suggest that all the priests served in this extra week is speculation at best, because it's not written in the scrolls. The pattern is always 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 5, 6. There's no room or evidence of a 5th year intercalation in their method, which would be needed to keep everything in sync. As far as the stars are concerned, what exactly is noticed in the stars' alignment in their method that indicated whether or not to intercalate a week? We use the star app, which is not Stellarium, to try and understand this without just taking someone's word for it. And it appears many use the astronomical time to determine the year's start, in combination with the Gregorian weekdays. So both are man-made. Astronomical timing is a man-made timekeeping. They have man-made markers in there. They even have a man-made 13th month in there now. Man-made, just like the Gregorian week, man-made. So after numerous hours spent recording the lunar cycles, Marissa, she found that they cannot be replicated indefinitely to determine the years. Many people believe that the lunar cycle, that full moon phase, and the solar cycle, the equinox day, will sync up with the Gregorian weekday, Wednesday, to replicate the creation week every 294 years. So, however, the moon is not reliable in this scenario. So, 3/20/2019, the moon was at 100%. 294 years back, 1726, 92%. 294 years even further back, 77%. So it just gets less and less with this 294 years, proving they are incorrect in what they're saying. Not to mention this 294 years is found nowhere in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So Jubilee 6, 36 through 37, there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon and how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day. And they will confound all the days, the holy, which is Yahuah's true calendar days, with the unclean, which is a Gregorian calendar weekday, and the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. So if the sons of Zadok had jubilees as their foundation, and it warns us about making observations of the moon, why do some insist they were observing moon phases? The true Sabbath is anchored to Yahuah's great sign, the Tekufa, that we can physically observe shining here on earth as it is in heaven, the Tekufa. We are still determining how the moon is used exactly and how it is a witness, but we have been finding it is more for agricultural seasons and tracking longer periods of time. We also believe it is not a certain phase or sliver of the moon that we cite, but rather which gate it is rising and setting with the sun as a witness, not a determining factor. We are also seeing it also seeing it is a witness for the 3-year tithe, which we can find in Deuteronomy or Leviticus. So we do know for sure it is not used for months or to calculate a year or used to determine Sabbaths or festivals of Yahuah. As we have seen, using the moon phases to determine priestly cycles stems from rabbinic texts. And when attempting to line up these phases, they do not line up as they are made to appear as they do by the author's insertions. So we do not have all the answers, but we are searching diligently and continuously. So a lot of people are wondering, well, Saturday's been the preserved Sabbath and so forth and so on. Well, here we're going to talk about the Council of Nicaea, who changed Saturday from day 1 to day 7. So during the Council of Nicaea in AD 321 through 325, an entirely new religion was fashionized and realized at the 5-year summit meeting of the notorious Council of Nicaea. In light of this premise, the Zadok calendar delineated in Scripture was entirely forsaken, a departure from the faithful practice upheld by the sons of Zadok since the time of King David. Thus, with its unending cycle, the Roman planetary week was designed and legislated to replace the scriptural week. Here's the evidence for this. So this is Robert Lee Odom, Sabbath and Sunday in Early Christianity, page 243 to 244. So in 321 AD, Constantine, Emperor of Rome, by civil enactments, made the venerable day of the sun, Sunday, which we know it today, which day was then notable for its veneration, the weekly rest day of the empire, the Roman Empire. The enforcement of the weekly observance of Sunday gave official recognition to the new week of 7 days and resulted in the introduction of it into the official civil calendar of Rome. The Romans passed that calendar down to us. And in it, we have still the ancient planetary titles of the days of the week. So 40 years later, AD 363 to 364, under the rulership of Julian, the last Constantinian emperor, the Council of Laodicea convened. The popularized version of Canon 29 from the Council of Laodicea is central to Sabbatarian doctrine, but unrecognized by most. This canon has been falsely translated, perpetuating Sunday's sacredness as the first day and quote-unquote Saturday as the 7th day of the biblical week sequence. So this is Council of Laodicea, Canon 29. A lot of people try to quote this to say this, what we're going to see. Notice Saturday in red here. Remember that. So Christians shall not Judaize and be idle on Saturday. This is a mistranslation. But shall work on that day. But the Lord's day, Sunday, they shall especially honor. And as being Christians, shall, if possible, see, just saying, oh, well, if it's possible, do no work on that day. If, however, they are found Judaizing, they shall be shut out from Christ. So this is how the Roman Catholic Church pushed their doctrines and changed everything to what we know today. So 2 important points can be drawn from this ancient quote from the Council of Laodicea. Sunday, the new Roman solar calendar, is here introduced as quote-unquote the Lord's Day. This connection is never made in Scripture or prior to AD 321 for 2 reasons. 1, the earliest Roman cycling planetary week was 8 days in length, the noonday. Later, when the 8-day week cycling was first modified prior to Constantine and AD 321, the order of its days were changed. But until then, Saturday was the first day of the week, and Sunday was the second, as shown below. So we're going to look at that. It was only after that date that Sunday became day 1 and Saturday day 7. So not only did the Romans have an 8th day that was not counted, which is why it's not named, we see here Saturn, day 1 of their week. Then we see Dies Sol, which is Sunday now. So this is called the Roman Parapegma calendar or the Roman Peg calendar. There is actually quite a few sources you can cite from this. There is quite a few in my article I have, which I took this from. So the Roman Parapegma calendar, which starting from the left, Saturn, So Saturn, which is what Saturday is named after today. Sol, which is Sunday. Luna, Tuesday. Mars, Wednesday. Mercury, Thursday. Jupiter, Friday. And Venus. Wait, I have that backwards. Yeah, Venus was so sorry, it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's where we get all our modern day weekday names today. So Saturn, Saturday, Sol, Sunday, Luna, Monday, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday, Mercury, Thursday, Jupiter, Friday, Venus. So in the upper row, you'll see the days of the week in a wooden peg hole to mark the current day. The days of the week are symbolized by the 7 Roman deities, after whom the planets known at the time and visible to the unaided eye were named. That would be Saturn, Saturday, Moon, Monday, Mars, Tuesday, Mercury, Wednesday, Jupiter, Thursday, Venus, Friday, and Sun, Sol, Sunday. There's a translation error as highlighted in red in the above quote of Council of Laodicea, Canon 29. So Saturday. It has been constantly ignored by translators and theologians alike for 1,700 years. Whether intentional or unintentional, it has served as a convenient lie, helping cement Sunday as the first day of their continuous weekly cycle invention, and Saturday is the 7th day of that same week. Then, when the Jews, under pressure from the Romans, ultimately adopted Saturday as their 7th-day Sabbath, the deception was complete. Sabbati, that's what they named their Sabbath day. Now all the world perceives that the Roman solar calendar with its Saturday as the 7th day is one and the same as the one ordained at creation and recorded in Scripture. Yep. So Josephus and all these historians that people try to use say, oh, look, Saturday, Saturday. Well, it's because of the Roman Seleucid Empire influence. So yet, to the discerning mind, this is all smoke and mirrors. So according to Karl von Hefel, who is a Catholic bishop and a scholar, in his book, which is called The History of the Councils of the Church from the Original Documents, reveals that the word, quote-unquote, Saturday, which back then would be called Dies Saturni, does not exist, either in the Greek or Latin text. Instead, the word Saturday was supplied in the English translation to replace the word Sabbato. So it wasn't Dies Saturni, it was Sabbato, Sabbath, the Sabbath. So here we see it in Latin here. And again, where it says Saturday, it actually says Sabbath. So when the Julian calendar was being enforced upon the early believers for religious purposes, absolutely no one confused the word Dies Saturni with Shabbato. 2 distinct words. Everyone then recognized these 2 terms as unique names for 2 separate days, as found on 2 distinctly different calendar time measuring, distinctly different time measuring calendar models. This evidence from history has been forgotten and overwritten during the translation with the pretext of the theory of Saturday sacredness being changed to Sunday. That Saturday has been assumed to be the 7th-day Sabbath of Scripture. This is partly due to the fact that the planetary week was adopted in AD 358 by the Yehudim, the Jews, in conformity with the demands of their Roman Constantinian captors since the Seleucid Empire. Coupled with this, the promotion of the entire Roman calendar model throughout the land shows why all the world has now followed the beast, Rome, into a fraudulent pagan worship rhythm, wholly unaware of its origin. How crafty was this? Almost finished here. So this is from Rest Days by Hutton Webster. These eventually led Jewish rabbis to call Saturn Shabbati, the star of the Sabbath, the star of Remphan. It was not until the 4th century of our era, when the planetary week had become an established institution, that the Jewish Sabbath seems to always have corresponded to Saturn's day, Saturday. This planetary week was paganism's counterfeit of the true biblical week, instituted by the Creator in the beginning of Earth's history. In the counterfeit week employed in ancient paganism, the venerable day of the sun was esteemed by the heathen above the other 6 days, because it was regarded as sacred to the sun, the chief of the planetary deities. Just as the true Sabbath is inseparably linked with the biblical week, creation week, so the false Sabbath of the pagan origin needed a weekly cycle. Thus, we have found that the planetary week of paganism is Sunday's twin sister, and that the two counterfeit institutions were linked together. So again, Sabbath and Sunday in Early Christianity by Robert Lee Odom. And that is the end of the calendar presentation. Let me go ahead and end the recording and restart it again here. All right. So that is our calendar presentation. Give me just a second here. All right. Have to stop sharing the system audio or we will have echo if someone wants to speak. So yeah, that's our presentation. That's pretty much what we are going to present for our Zoom meeting next week with Jackson Snyder. And again, we'll have a practice run on Wednesday or Thursday. We'll work out all the details. But yeah, we'll have a little practice run going, and everyone will be invited here Wednesday or Thursday, like I said. So yeah, pretty exciting. I'm going to make a few edits here in the presentation. I'm going to basically remove my part about Saturday being day one of the week back then, and have Ellie, because she has a lot of knowledge in that. And if you heard last week, her presentation, it was really amazing. So that's why we decided, and she decided to help out as well, and, be able to present that when speaking to Jackson. So yeah, pretty exciting. Definitely can use some prayers for that as well. And speaking of that, so this evening, Jackson, he's going to be doing a little presentation himself on Zoom. So we'll share the link in the chat here, but it'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern, which will be 5 o'clock my time, which right now it's 12 in the afternoon here. So just to compare that with whatever time zone you're in, wherever you are. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a big question there, brother. So the Garden of Eden, it's basically the garden of the land known as Eden, where Yahuah dwelled. Yes, he went into the garden. I believe it was taken from, our physical land where we are and taken to the heavens, because Enoch also describes seeing it in the heavens as well. So it's a pretty deep subject. That's something, I don't have all the answers to, and it's something we're still searching out as well. But yeah, if you find anything, feel free to let us know as well. And also, if anybody has any questions or anything they would like to add, any comments, feel free. We're all family here. Yeah. That's my thoughts about it. I haven't looked super deep into that, but I have looked into it, and it's very interesting. So, yeah.
There's a lot of research to go through as far as different maps and other types of things. I've already looked into it for a little while I'd say within the last 7 days, but I haven't had much success yet. But still looking, from what I can discern, the location of the Garden of Eden should be in Africa, or was in Africa.
Yeah, I've heard these claims as well. I've heard other claims. There's so many claims about it, but yeah, it's something we'll have to look into more. But yeah, for sure, if you find anything out, let us know. I appreciate it.
Will do. I'm definitely for learning and for sharing knowledge and wisdom. So I love being here and listening and learning and growing with you guys and sharing what knowledge I have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We love having you here. And yeah, we're all family, we all need each other for that exact reason. Iron sharpening iron. We each have a piece of this giant puzzle, and we all need each other because we have these different pieces. So yeah.
That's something that I've loved about fellowshipping with other believers is little bits here, little bits there. I've gone through, I don't know how many different calendars and countless, so to speak, hours of research into finding the true calendar to finally come to the Zadok calendar that we're currently on. But I agree, I've learned more from other people than from going through the scriptures personally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's better to take it to scriptures for yourself. And yeah, Shabbat Shalom, Sister Marissa. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, I'm in and out.
I definitely don't disagree. Just saying, I've been blessed to have learned more from other people.
Absolutely. Praise Yahuah. Yeah, without us all coming together here, we wouldn't have learned as much as we have. It's all praise to the Most High. And Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to all the newcomers as well. Welcome to our Mishpacha, our fellowship gathering. And we're glad to have you all here. So excited. And praise Yahuah to all those who are hungry for his truth, Okay, yes. So Sukkot. So there was a slight change of plans. If you want to talk about it, Marissa, since you know more about it, feel free.
Yeah, but hold on
if
a
you're
second.
able.
I gotta run away to the bathroom.
Yeah, no worries if you're able. So while she does that, just a quick overrun of it. Basically, change of plans. The original plan place, it was turning out it was going to cost a lot more than the people had said. So it's changing locations to Marissa's, the Spencer's property, which it's not too far from where the original place was. So
Yeah, so when I got the finalized agreement for the campground, once we had all went and saw it and everything, and with maxing out like the capacity of people we could have per tent site, they actually raised the price on the tent sites, and I didn't realize that they were going to do that. So their rates were with 2 people per site, and then when I told her, oh, it would be 6 people per site, the cost of it raised. So it would have made the tent tickets $105 a person. And so the planning committee just felt that that was too much because it more than doubled the amount that we all originally thought it was going to be. So just with some quick thinking, we moved it to my property about 30 minutes away from that campground. My property is sloped, so there's limited flat area space for tents. I don't want anybody to be like, rolling down the hill in their tent or anything. So, so there's a limited tent space available, but we're gonna keep it at that 45 a person to do Sukkot on our property, and basically that cost just goes towards firewood for the entire 10 days, as well as toilet paper and the electricity. So we will be able to have electric to every tent. There's minimal extension cords, so we can't run like 1500 watt space heaters in the tent. But the nightly temperatures are typically 45 to 50 degrees in Missouri in October. So some people are like, oh, that sounds like really great sleeping weather. And other people are like, oh, no, I get cold really easy. So we recommend those Mr. heaters. And they're like a propane heater that's for tent camping. They have adapters. I can send the Amazon listing at some point for that. There will be an outdoor shower. I have one off of my camper, and we'll have a tent for it, like a shower tent for it. And then there's the indoor toilet and sink, and we have like a little play set area and a trampoline for the kids, so it'll still be fun for them. We actually just got all the firewood yesterday for Sukkot to make sure that it's all dried out in time. And so we'll set up like a community fire spot, and yeah. So I've already gotten a few tickets in, and obviously after Shavuot, if you are still interested in tent camping, it'll be in Dixon, Missouri. Please reach out. Any questions?
Sounds pretty amazing to me. It's going to be a great time. Praise Yahuah.
Yeah, and I know that there were some people that were interested in a cabin, and so there are a lot of Airbnbs around here that are like less than 10 minutes away. So if you do end up like staying at an Airbnb alternatively, just to come fellowship with us during the day is not any cost. Or I know like some people were interested in just visiting for the day rather than camping with us, and so that won't cost anything either.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing time. Can't wait to fellowship and, observe Yahuwah's festivals together. It's going to be great.
You won't believe this. I don't believe this. It's amazing. It's 8 p.m. Well, it's 8:20 in the UK at the moment, and I'm staring at a rainbow in the sky. Absolutely brilliant.
Hallelujah.
And we know the rainbow is a sign of a promise, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Interesting timing.
And it's the day before promise of the day of promises. Absolutely. My camera can't pick it up, but I can see it quite clearly. I was going to take a picture of it, but I can't do it. It's a really strange time of day to have a rainbow. 8:20 in evening, and it's a cloudy day. It's unbelievable.
Oh, that really is, because earlier we were talking about, because they're talking about these events going on and how you're going to be able to see, the northern lights from pretty far south. But, we were discussing it and talking about how, the throne of Yahuwah is like a rainbow. And that's what the scriptures is describing, because the lights of his throne, like all those different colored stones that they mention, and just perfect timing, you know. And then you see that rainbow.
Can you
Wow.
see it?
Yeah, we see it. There it is.
Look,
Let me.
there's clouds behind it. There's clouds behind it. It's a cloudy day. That's unbelievable. It's so late at night. I've never seen a
I can
rainbow
see
so
that.
late at night.
Praise Yahuah. Yeah. Pretty amazing. Let's see. All praise to the Most High. That's his sign right there. What are your thoughts on when Yahusha was born through the Spirit? That the man being born as Yahusha then brought into existence what some people believe is the second Yahuah mentioned in the Tanakh. So basically, to break it down simply, Yahuah took a part of himself and put it in a fleshly human body, is what happened there. So that body would become, you know, his son, like took a piece of himself, made it into that flesh. So that image of Yahuah that we see all throughout the Tanakh, the Old Testament, you know, that's Messiah right there. That's the image of Yahuah himself. Why? Because it's Yahuah. Yahuah is invisible. Like, he's a spirit. Like, no one can see him. So what are we seeing? We're seeing his image, who is the Messiah, who is Yahuah himself in the flesh. So it's not any kind of Trinity. It's nothing like that. It's very deep. So
I'm not disagreeing with you. Maybe what I was saying didn't quite make sense. So it's a similar idea to what you were saying, except the idea is that the Most High was in heaven, and through the Ruach, the Son, the human being side, became born, so to speak, as believers are, so to speak, born again through the Spirit, and then became human and divine. And when he resurrected, there's still the Most High and Yahuah the Son on the right hand side of the throne. Does that make sense? That's what I'm trying to say. What are your thoughts on that versus the idea of Yahuah himself coming down, becoming a human being, leaving his throne entirely, and then resurrecting and going to heaven? Just asking for a theological.
So I don't think he left his throne at all. Like, there's only one throne. He's up there always. So he didn't leave his throne. It was just a part of his own Ruach. Like if you take an ocean, if the ocean would be Yahuah, his Ruach, and you take a glass of that ocean, like a glass of water, like that you would drink, and you fill that up, that's basically what we're trying to describe here. But it's okay to have differences of opinion.
No, it's not a difference of opinion. It's just trying to understand maybe something that may not be understandable at this point in time. But basically, from what I've heard, there's ideas going around that Yahusha was created, and that only Yahuah the Father is eternal. And so, from what I understand, I'm not saying there's a Trinity, but the idea that there was the full human being, Yahushua the Son, here on earth. And then, as I understand theologically, when Yahushua was baptized, he became born of the Spirit, which would confirm the scripture that says, "This day I have begotten you," because that day Yahushua was begotten both of man and of the Spirit. And then when he died and resurrected and went to the right hand on power, he literally is now on the right hand on power as human and Yahuwah in the flesh, while Yahuwah's on the main throne, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're saying there's people saying that he's a created being and wasn't there since the beginning. Well, there's actually many verses that say the opposite of that. You know, he was there since the beginning, all things created through him. Why? Because it's his image. So he wasn't created, he was begotten, like how our children are begotten of us in that same context, but in the spiritual sense. So he wasn't created. The human body aspect, yeah, that was created, but his ruach, his spirit, that was not created, if that makes sense.
So from what I understand, where the idea that Yahushua was a created being, whether that's the human being side or what, comes from the idea that he was the firstborn of all creation, I think is what it says.
Yeah. Because he is the visible. He's like the image. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you for your opinion on that verse.
Yeah, so he's that visible image of the glory of Yahuwah. Because Yahuwah is like no one, like I said, no one has seen him. Even only certain angels, they come to his image, which is Messiah. And it's because he's so powerful. So he had to have that image. And then through his image, which is Messiah, everything was created. So it was like, just like we're saying, that glass of ocean water that he put there to be his image so he can work through that. That's the context of what's going on. That's what me and a few others in here believe as well. But it's honestly, I think it's a
complete sense.
Oh, go ahead.
It makes complete sense.
Okay, yeah, got it. Yeah, and I get there's going to be some people, like not necessarily in this group, just in general, that they're going to have differences of opinions. And, they call it a Trinity thing. But that's not what it is. Because we're not. Yeah, that's a whole deeper subject. But we should I'll probably get a presentation or something going about that so I can better explain it rather than, just going off the top of my head. But yeah, I think I'll do that. Or if Katrina's listening, if there's anything you would like to add, if you're able.
Yeah. So Olive Branch has a phenomenal series on the deity of Yahuah, and how he manifests himself as the Messiah. You walk through scriptures. What always bothered me was, well, not always, but, when Messiah says, "If you love me, keep my commandments." They're his. He owns them. He claims them. He walks them. He is the Word. He is the Torah made manifest. So if we believe that the Word, Yahuwah's Torah, is manifest just as much as he is, it's all coming from the throne. It's just a way that he is manifested among us. Written word, human in flesh. Because we see Yahushua always showing us how to approach the throne. Always showing us how to pray to the Father. He was our example. I always see those mocking memes saying, hey, God, it's me, God. And it's so mocking. And they don't understand it. And I used to be one of them until I repented. I know better. Yahuah is able to manifest as the Messiah, the perfect example, to show us how to do the things like Romans 6 and Romans 7. Die to our flesh. Everyone wants to say, oh, he came to take the penalty for us to rejoin the covenant. He came to show us how to walk in the flesh, or walk in the spirit and kill the flesh.
Yeah, he was our example of what to do. So that's what he was doing there, giving us an example. So, yeah, we'll have to. I know Brother Jimmy. He did a whole live stream on TikTok about it last night. Actually, it was really good. He walked through the scriptures about it and explained it really well. Maybe we can invite him on here to give his presentation about it if he would accept. Which he's actually invited us on again to his TikTok live streams, and we're going to schedule something out later this week as well.
Would anyone mind if I read something from the Book of Nazarene that kind of tidied things up about this subject? And it was something I was going to mention. It was something I was going to mention because it has stars in it, Marissa. But these stars are prophetic stars. But so what's happening is Yahushua's brothers have said, "Come on, there's a guy down called John that's baptizing people. Let's go down and see him." So as Yahushua walks up to John, or I can't say this name, Yohanan, Yahushua asks him, "What do you know about me?" And John answers, and this is the answer that got me going. "Years gone by, I had a vision of 3 heavenly lights, and as the sun sank, they rose." So this is a bit of us looking as the sun sinks. We're now looking at the stars, which ties in with what we've been doing anyway. So that kind of pricked my interest. "A flame of fire went up over Jerusalem, and smoke filled the temple, and a star fell down into the Jews. The meaning I know, for it was this: the deliverer is born, and woe to the house of Herod, and woe to you, scribes, and your interpretations of the Torah." So John's saying, woe to the Roman organizations, a deliverer has been born, and woe to you Jews that are not keeping the Torah as you should. "The star that appeared, stood over Jerusalem, was a child planted into Bethlehem from out of the heavenly heights, and as was foretold. And it was prophesied he would be the deliverer. The fire that burned was the fire of a strange altar. I prophesy great things for you. You are the true son of Elohim. Soon you will see the glory of heaven revealed, and the power of the Holy Spirit will be poured upon you as a stream of pure water. The time has come to proclaim yourself. Peace, peace on you whom our Elohim has chosen as his messenger. For you will proclaim the true gospel. Strengthen your heart." So he's proclaiming the true gospel, the true Torah, the true way, okay? "Strengthen your heart, for the road ahead is steep and stony. No man is hated so much as the one who tries to point out defects in character and attitudes and seeks to guide men along the path of right and beneficial living." And that's when, after that, Yahuah took Yeshua into the river and baptized him. But what we get here is we get three stars of fire falling over one over Bethlehem and one over the Jerusalem, and I believe this could be a bit prophetic i.e. the first star of fire is Yahushua being born. The second star of fire is when I believe Jerusalem was ransacked, which I believe what happened in part of Revelation, and Yahushua was there. And the third one will be his return, when he returns to claim his place here. But it seems to me that the Holy Spirit was given to Yahushua in fullness. I do believe that he left his heavenly realm to come here to earth, as in the sort of prodigal son story. And it wasn't until he was baptized by John that the fullness of the Spirit was given to him, and his job was to teach the Torah to magnify the Torah, to make everyone understand it completely, because it seemed that it had all been twisted and corrupted up until that point.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't. I need to read the Book of Nazarene some more. I've read it a couple times, but going over all the calendar stuff, I need to read it again. Yeah, interesting.
I was just struck. I saw three heavenly lights. As the sun sank, they rose. I just think that's what we're doing now, isn't it? As the sun's now sinking, we're now looking at the skies to see what's up there and what's happening. I believe this is what Abraham was doing as well.
Wow, yeah, the sun and the stars. Yeah, there it is. More confirmation of sun and stars. Wow. What chapter was that in the Book of Nazarene?
I think it's quite early on. Let's have a look. I think it's chapter 2, midway through. Yeah, chapter 2. Is verse 8, 9 onwards.
Awesome.
It kind of shows Yahushua's sort of humanity. There's one section further on into the book that actually says that during the night he took off his cloak and put it over a donkey that was cold, and the people around him said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, the donkey doesn't know how to look after himself. I'm here to take care of him. You know, he doesn't know how to keep himself warm when I can help." And there's something in the Torah about that, isn't there? There's something about the Torah about being a good husband to the animals and taking care of animals, which all these little nuggets of information are all in there in this Book of Nazarene.
Wow, yeah. Amazing. Praise Yah. That's awesome. Maybe we should do a reading of it here at some point as well.
Yeah, there's also a bit about his appearance. Apparently, I don't know how to take this really, but it says at night there shone a pale blue haze around Yahushua. So he had something that we didn't have, or we don't have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, thank you, Ken. That was a good find. Good thing to point out there. All right, so oops, let me actually accidentally shrunk my screen. So I wanted to get into proving out the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, because personally myself, I've seen a lot online on Facebook, social media, of these people trying to discredit both Enoch, Jubilees, and basically all of the Apocrypha. And, they want to make claims like, oh, you're adding to his word and you're adding to this. And it's like, well, how is it adding if they were in it in the first place? That's actually called taking away. And you don't want to accept the books that they have removed from scriptures. So we're going to prove these books are not adding to his word. They can't be adding to it if they were already in it and removed. So we're going to prove out how they were removed and why they were removed as well. And yes, if Moses wrote it, if it's Torah, things like that. So yes, we're absolutely going to prove this out right here. And I know just because there's been a lot of, oh, those aren't legit, you shouldn't read those, stay away from these. And it's because they're just following men who usually they're following some other spirit, and they don't want to accept the truth that's right in front of their face because they don't want to be proven wrong. So we're just going to walk it through scriptures here and prove them out. Oh, we're getting some thunder outside. It's been pretty rainy here today. So if you hear any big bangs, it's going to be a thunderstorm. They get pretty wild here in the desert. So anyways, excuse me. So there are many who try to discredit the books of First Enoch and Jubilees, which both were removed by Rabbi Akiva in the 1st century. And we're going to go over that. As with the DSS, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the evidence they present is usually false or untrue interpretations, also adding or taking away from or misunderstanding what both books actually say. The below selected citations are from 11 different books of the Old and the New Testament that reflect word-for-word parallels to the Book of Enoch, showing the familiarity and endorsement of Enoch's sacred words of prophecy throughout Scripture. So this is going to be Jude 1:14 through 15, a direct quote from Enoch. So, and Enoch, Hanok, the 7th from Adam, also Nabu of these, prophet, saying, Nabu means prophesy or prophet. So he prophesied of these, saying, see, Yahuah comes with his myriads of Kodeshim set apart, to execute judgment on all, to punish all who are wicked among them concerning all their wicked works, which they have committed in a wicked way, and concerning all the harshness which wicked sinners have spoken against him. So that Jude is going to match up exactly with Enoch chapter 1 verse 9. And see, he comes with 10,000s of his Kodeshim to execute judgment upon all, and to destroy all the wicked, and to convict all flesh of all the works of their wickedness, which they have committed wickedly, and all of the harsh matters which wicked sinners have spoken against him. That's word for word quotes that Jude himself wrote down. There's no excuse for this. People try to say, well, he quoted Enoch, but that doesn't mean that Enoch's legit. Well, then why would Jude be quoting from it? It's just, these fence-riding excuses. They have no excuse. So we have Matthew 5:5. Baruch, or blessed, Baruch are the meek, because they shall inherit the earth, which matches up with Enoch 5, verse 7. So, but for the elect, there shall be light and joy and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. Basically, almost word for word again, quoted by an apostle himself. So here we have 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 4. So, for if Yahuah did not spare the messengers or the angels who sinned, but set them to Gehenna, and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be kept for judgment. So this is also going to match up with Revelation 20, verse 10, which is also going to match up with Enoch 10, verse 4 through 6. So 2 witnesses to Enoch right here. So, and the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. So this is talking about the fallen angels here in 2 Peter, the messengers who sinned, the fallen angels, Satan being one of them, and it's showing here they're being not spared by being thrown into the lake of fire. This is going to match up with Enoch chapter 10, verse 4 through 6. And also, disclaimer, I should have probably mentioned it earlier, but this is going to be like the R.H. Charles, or this specific version is Yah's Scriptures version of Enoch. So the chapters and verses may vary depending on your translation. So this is the specific verses in the R.H. Charles and Yah Scriptures. So Enoch 10, 4 through 6. And again, Yahuah said to Raphael, bind Azazel, hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him there, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness. Let him abide there forever, and cover his face, that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment, he shall be cast into the fire. Yep. Again, Enoch backed up by Peter and John in Revelation. So we have 1 Timothy 6:16. Who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, who no one has seen or is able to see, to whom be respect and everlasting might. So this is going to be matching up with Enoch 14, verse 21 through 22. Yeah, Dudael, it's a desert place. I speculate it's what they call Antarctica, or the ice wall that surrounds us, because there's a lot of jagged rocks and things like that. I think Hasatan was known as Azazel. He was known as Gadriel. He had a few different names. Because I think it's Azazel. Or no, there was one of them, one of the fallen watchers. I believe it was Azazel who fell, and he was like the only one who didn't, have sex with women, but rather
That was Gadriel.
Gadriel, that's what it is.
Yeah, Azazel, he was one of the ones that I think mated with women. I want to say I think he was like the one that wanted to make that oath with everybody. Because his Azazel's punishment, he's separated from the other watchers that are also bound. So Azazel's the only one that was bound in the desert. The other ones are bound somewhere else.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry,
you.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no. Feel free. Perfect timing. So Gadriel is the one, he's the only one who didn't commit fornication with women. So that's why he's still around to this day. Gadriel, that's where the word or title God in the English language comes from. But yes. All right, so continuing here. So Enoch 14, verse 21 through 22 is going to match up with 1 Timothy 6:16 here. So none of the messengers could enter and look upon his face. This is what we were talking about earlier. Not even the angels can enter and look upon his face because of the magnificence and esteem. This is why he had to make the image of himself, because not even the messengers could look upon him. And no flesh could look upon him. And the flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him, and no one around could draw near him. 10,000 times 10,000 before him, yet he needed no counselor. So why is Messiah the only one able to approach him? Because it is him in the flesh, his image. Because none of the angels can even approach him. They can only come up to the throne. But this is what's backing up 1 Timothy here, who no one has seen or is able to see. Unapproachable light. And that's exactly what's being described right here in Enoch. So 1 Corinthians 10, 19 through 20. When, then, do I say that an idol is anything, or that which is offered to idols is anything? No. But what the Gentiles offer, they offer to demons, and not to Elohim. And I do not want you to become sharers with demons. So this is 1 Corinthians, Paul, not false. This is going to match because he's not only quoting from the Dead Sea Scrolls, uses the same language, but he's quoting directly from Enoch here as well. So Enoch 19, verse 1. And Uriel said to me, here shall stand the messengers who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as mighty ones, until the day of the great judgment, in which they shall be rightly ruled, until they are made an end of. So as we can see, the same statements, same quotes right here. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing that picture. Excuse me. So Luke 9, verse 35. And a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my Ben, my son, the beloved. Hear him. This is going to match up with Enoch 45, 3 through 4. On that day, my elect one shall sit on the throne of the esteem, and shall try their works, and their places of rest shall be innumerable. So this is talking about Messiah Yahusha, judging all of us righteously. And their beings shall grow strong within them when they see my elect ones, and those who have called upon my magnificent name, Yahuah. Then I will cause my elect one, capitalized one, Messiah, to dwell among them. Yep. And I will transform the Shamayim, the heavens, and make it an eternal barakah, blessing and light. So Daniel even quoted directly from Enoch. So Daniel 7, verses 9 through 10. So pay attention to what Daniel calls them and what Enoch calls them as well. So I was looking until the thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. His throne was flames of fire, its wheels burning fire. A stream of fire was flowing and coming forth from his presence. And 1,000 thousands served him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judge was seated, and the books were opened. So again, Daniel describing the Messiah and the Ancient of Days. This is going to match up right here. Enoch 47, verse 3. In those days I saw the head of days, when he seated himself upon the throne of his esteem. So we see a similarity even in what Daniel calls him, the Ancient of Days, because Daniel was well after Enoch. Enoch was ancient by Daniel's time, so he's calling him the Ancient of Days. Enoch calls him the head of days. Same terminology. When he seated himself upon the throne of his esteem, and the books of the living were opened before him, and all his host, which is in the Shamaim, the heavens above him, and his counselors stood before him. So everything we're reading out of Enoch is matching up exactly to what we read from scriptures. There's no denying it. There's no excuse for saying this. Well, he can be quoting from something else. No, it's lined up right here. So 1 John 2:15, do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Which is going to line up with Enoch 48:7. And the wisdom of Yahuah of hosts has revealed him to the Kodesh and righteous. For he has preserved the lot of the righteous, because they have hated and despised this world of unrighteousness. And they have hated all its works and ways in the name of Yahuah of hosts. For in his name they are saved, and according to his good pleasure has it been in regard to their life. So boom. This is where this is where John is getting this from. Right here in Enoch. So Acts 10:34, and opening his mouth, Peter, said, truly, I see that Elohim shows no partiality. Again, this is Paul's writings, matching up what we see out of Enoch. Chapter 63, verse 8. And in the day of our suffering and tribulation, he does not save us. And we find no relief for confession that our Adon is true in all his works, and in his right rulings, and his justice. And his right rulings have no respect of persons, meaning showing no partiality. James 1:6-8. But he should ask in belief, not doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For that man should not think that he shall receive whatever from the Adon. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. It's going to equal Enoch 91, verse 4. As Shalom Cat, thank you for joining. Glad you can make it for when you did. You are always welcome back. All right, so Enoch 91:4. Love the uprightness and walk in it, and do not draw near to uprightness with a double heart. Do not be double-minded. Do not associate with those of a double heart, double mind. But walk in righteousness, my sons, and it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. Shabbat shalom to you as well, Joanne. Glad you can make it here. Thank you for joining. So this is only a handful of examples out of thousands of parallels in Enoch to the Bible, to scriptures. So an online resource of the Book of Enoch that shows all the references and parallels to scripture in the entire Book of Enoch can be found here. So really quickly, I will copy this link and share it in the chat here. And for those watching on YouTube as well, I have the link to my article pinned, and it's going to be pinned in the description. It's going to have this link there as well. So continuing on, so not to mention in Matthew 22, verse 29 through 30, and Yahusha answering, so this is when he was speaking to the Pharisees, said to them, you go astray not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of Elohim. So they were bringing up, this woman and how her husband died, so her brother married, or his brother married, then he died, then his other brother married, and so forth and so on. So Messiah Yahusha was answering, for in the resurrection they do not marry, nor are they given in marriage, but are as messengers of Elohim in the Shamayim. So what is he quoting here? You will not find this explained anywhere else throughout scriptures, or quote-unquote 66 books. Why? Because the book that he's quoting from while telling the Pharisees they don't know scriptures is Enoch. There are many who will have an excuse for that and say, well, he's not quoting from there. It could be something else. Well, no, just more excuses. Because again, Enoch is legit. Messiah himself is quoting it, calling it scriptures as he quotes it. So what he quoted is Enoch 15, verse 5 through 7. Therefore I have given them, because he was just talking about men, wives, also that they might impregnate them, and bring forth children by them, that thus none might be lacking to them on earth. But you, speaking to the angels, were formerly spiritual. So specifically the fallen angels he's speaking to. Living the eternal high, or life, and immortal for all generations of the world. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones of the Shamayim, in the Shamayim is their dwelling. So this is where Yahuah, or Enoch, he's quoting from what Yahuah is saying. The angels were not appointed wives. They were not appointed to be given in marriage. Why? Because it's the spiritual place. This is exactly what Messiah Yahushua is quoting from right here. So he's quoting Enoch as he is telling the Pharisees they do not know Scripture, and effectively calling the book of Enoch Scripture. No other book describes the angels not being given in marriage, only the book of Enoch. Messiah quoting from it is all I need personally to validate Enoch. And just as with the rest of the DSS, many attempt to try to discredit First Enoch because he reveals the true solar calendar of Yahuah. So this is going to be Enoch 82, 4 through 7. And a lot of these people who try to use Enoch to say, oh, see, Enoch's describing moons for months. Well, the problem is with that is they don't ever read beyond chapter 73, which chapter 73 is a chapter about the moons. They don't read the rest of Enoch, where the sun and stars are bringing in the years, which is backed up by Wisdom of Solomon, which is backed up by himself in chapter Enoch 82, 4 through 7. So Baruch are all the righteous. Baruch are all those who walk in the way of righteousness and do not sin as the sinners. In the reckoning of all their days in which the sun traverses the Shamayim. So the sun, their days, correlation to the sun, not the moon. Entering into and departing from the portals for 30 days, with the heads of the thousands of the order of stars. So here we go again, Enoch describing months of 30 days as counted by the sun and the stars, together with the 4 which are intercalated, which divide the 4 portions of the year, which lead them and enter with them 4 days. So again, the 4 seasonal stars for the 4 seasonal intercalated days each year. The 31st day of every 3rd month. Owing to them, men shall be at fault and not reckon them in the whole reckoning of the year. So, men will go wrong and not see these stars, not go according to the sun, and shall be at fault and not recognize them accurately, not reckoning them in the year. For they belong to the reckoning of the year and are truly recorded forever. See, forever, meaning the sun and the stars are heavenly things. Hasatan has only control over the earthly things. So there are many out there trying to say, oh, well, we got a fake sun, the stars are off, this, that, and another thing because of Satan. Well, right here we see these are going to be recorded forever. It doesn't say, well, there's going to be a block of time where they're not. No. Forever. Not to mention, like I just said, the luminaries, sun, moon, and stars, are heavenly things that Satan has no control over. So the only reason people will try to say that is to say, oh, well, we can't go by the stars and the sun, so your guys' calendar is off. That's the only excuse that they have for it. But I digress. Let me continue. So this is going to tell, Enoch is describing exactly where these 4 intercalated days are, which line up exactly with Jubilees, which line up exactly with the calendar the sons of Zadok kept. Read Ezekiel 44. So 1 in the 1st portal, 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th, and 1 in the 6th. And the year is completed in 364 days. So these are the 4 divisions of the year, each season, 1 for each season. And the account thereof is accurate. What? The sun, because he was just speaking about the sun and the stars, not the moon, and the recorded reckoning thereof exact. For the lights, and look, months, and festivals, and years, and days. So again, where's the moon in these verses? Oh, it's not in there. But what is Enoch saying? What is recording for the months and festivals? The sun and stars. Again, read past Enoch 73. So months and festivals and years and days, sun and stars, as Uriel has shown and revealed to me, whom the Adon of the whole creation of the earth has subjected the host of the Shamayim. One more time, no moon anywhere in Enoch 82, 4 through 7. No moon at all. Sun and stars. And yes, I am adding this to the presentation as well. I just saw your message, Sister Marissa. So, and also, Enoch 75, 1 through 2, again, the stars and the leaders of the heads of the thousands of stars who were placed over the whole creation and over all the stars have also to do with the 4 intercalary days being inseparable from the office, according to the reckoning of the year by what? The sun and the stars, not the moon. And these render service on the 4 days which are not reckoned in the reckoning of the year, the 31st day every 3rd month, because we have 12 months of 30 days plus these 4 intercalated days, 364-day count. So, and owing to them, men go astray therein. For those lights, the luminaries, truly render service on the world stations. And he reiterates what he just described, or what he described, what we had just read from. One in the first portal, one in the third portal of the Shamayim, one in the fourth portal. Interesting, I just noticed that. Excuse me. So one in the third portal of the heaven, which between the third and the fourth portal is that heavenly portal we see. Then it goes into the fourth portal and one in the sixth portal. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. Again, Enoch 75, 1 through 2. Just a couple chapters after Enoch 73, if you can make it there. Talking about the stars bringing in the year, 364 days. Of course, he calls them stations here. So again, we have to move past Enoch 73 for those who got to use Enoch to support some kind of moon calendar that is inaccurate.
Can I just jump in with?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
On that 1346 portal, I think that also they're referred to as gates when you read Enoch. So in the fourth gate we get the start of the year. Then in the first gate you get the summer solstice. And then in the third gate you would get the start of the autumn. And then in the sixth gate or portal you would get the winter solstice. It's not an order.
Well, it's because of the gates, or because he's describing them just at the beginning of the numbered count, I think, what's going on there. Or it could be a mistranslation as well. Because we know the fourth gate, which, let's see, first portal, third portal, fourth portal, and sixth portal.
Yeah, so the extra day would be in each of those portals or gates, 1346. The one is the summer solstice, the sixth is the winter solstice, and in the third portal, it's the last day in the third portal, which then leans into the which is the introduction to the vernal autumn equinox, and in the fourth portal it's the spring equinox, introduction to the spring equinox, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, brother. Yeah, I agree. All right, so what we're going to be reading next is Jubilees paralleling Enoch, and Enoch paralleling Jubilees, supporting each other, which we kind of went over earlier as Jubilees is describing the weekly yearly count. Enoch is describing the monthly yearly count. And they work together. So Jubilees 2, verses 9 through 10. And Elohim appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, Sabbaths, months, festivals, years, Sabbaths of years, Jubilees, and all seasons of the years. By the way, that word's Moedim as well. So look, he appointed the sun for Moedim. Seasons, time, Sabbaths, festivals, not the moon. So, and it divides the light from the darkness for good, that all matters may thrive, sprout, and grow on the earth. These three kinds he made on the fourth day. Which three kinds? The sun, moon, and stars. Also in Jubilees 6:23 through 24. So on the head of the first month, which is HaChodesh, every single translation is going to mistranslate this to, again, new moon, but the word there is HaChodesh, which we see is going to be head of the first month. On the head of the fourth month, on the head of the seventh month, and on the head of the 10th month, the days of remembrance and the days of the season in which the four divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a witness forever. Again, forever. There's not a time where we cannot use them as witnesses. So we cannot dismiss and say, well, you know, Satan's playing around with stuff, so he messed up the moon and the stars and the sun. Nope. Right here, Jubilees and Enoch both say they are a witness forever. And Noah ordained them for himself as festivals, for the generations forever. These four heads of these four seasonal months are these Noah ordained festivals, so that they have become thereby a memorial to him. Yes, Yahuah ordained them as festivals because Noah himself did as well. So Yahuah himself marked them as a memorial to Noah in the heavenly tablets, which if you continue reading there in Jubilees, you will see. So Enoch's also going to tell us when the head of the year is. Enoch 72:32 through 33. This is describing the equal day and the equal night, what we know as a equal lux, which occurs March 16th in Israel in our modern day. And again, we also see Enoch, he was taken above to Yahuah's position, where there was no what they call atmospheric lensing, which can be described as like when you put a pencil in a glass of water and it'll kind of bend the image and magnify it and distort it. That's what they call atmospheric lensing because of all the water we have in our atmosphere. Which on my YouTube channel, I have a video called How the Firmament Works, and it goes into all the details about that. So if you're interested, check that out, please. So most don't even see the 4 days of remembrance or the heads of months, as they are also called in both Enoch and Jubilees. If you aren't observing these 4 days, or aren't observing any of these parameters in both Enoch and Jubilees, you aren't on the right calendar, nor would you be understanding Enoch properly. Yes, you have to read past Enoch 73. Enoch is only describing the phases of the moon. Never does he say to cite it for the beginning of a month, a day, or a Sabbath. And also, Marissa had pointed out and found as well that in the book of Enoch found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, chapter 73 about the moon, where it's italicized according to the sign of the year, that actually does not exist in the original text, so that was added. So the moon does not have a sign of the year like they would like to portray, so as the italicized text would say in most of our modern books of Enoch. Dead Sea Scrolls doesn't have that. So Enoch 82, 4-7, Jubilees 2-9. Explain the sun. So also Wisdom of Solomon as well. Explain the sun is the witness and the marker for these things. This also lines up with the Zadok priestly calendar found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that these sons of Zadok preserved since the time of David. And again, please read Ezekiel 44 to learn who the sons of Zadok were, how they were ordained by Yahuah himself to keep the calendar and settle disputes about the calendar. So this is going to bring us into the book of Jubilees. Oh yeah, real quick. Thanks for showing that, Marissa. So it's Enoch 78:7, which is speaking about the moon there. It says it does not have the words according to the sign of the year in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So to clarify, that's what we were just speaking about there. So Enoch 78:7, where it says, according to the sign of the year, talking about the moon, does not exist in the Dead Sea Scrolls version of Enoch, showing that that is added text.
Before you move on to Jubilees, Jeremy, just as a point of interest, having read the book of the 12 patriarchs, in the Testament of Dan, I've got it here, he actually says that he's read the book of Enoch and he understands what's going to happen to the people that depart from the law, which I thought was quite interesting. And also in the book of Benjamin, in the 12 patriarchs, he also says, from the words of Enoch the righteous, that you have committed fornication. So what I'm trying to get to here is the book of Enoch was thoroughly read by lots of people and was thoroughly understood by many generations before us and before the Bible was put together. And when we look at Genesis being just a summary book, if you don't understand Enoch, or if you haven't heard the stories or read the stories of Enoch, then some places in Genesis, certainly Genesis 6, you wouldn't really get any understanding because you haven't read the book of Enoch. I really believe that the book of Enoch is a foundation for a lot of understanding, certainly about how the world was put together and the angels, etc., how everything works, and what the past history was and what the future history is going to be. And I think most generations ago, I think the book of Enoch would have been the go-to Bible before the Bible was put together.
Absolutely, Ken, because Jubilees corresponds with that too. Abraham was given those books, and it was written in their original language, so he didn't understand it because Abraham was after the confusion of the tower. So it said that, Yah had an angel untwist his tongue and open his ears to be able to understand what he was reading.
Wow, yeah.
It throws a massive importance onto Enoch, doesn't it? Onto the book of Enoch.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Jubilees mentions the book of Enoch. The 12 patriarchs mentions the book of Enoch. Basically, I can see the theme here is any books that mention the Messiah, the book of Enoch, the calendar, they were all removed. That's kind of what I'm seeing here as the bigger picture.
For sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother. Yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up, brother. Appreciate it. Always love your input. All right, so going into Jubilees, which we don't have too much more to go here. I got less than an hour left for the recording. Let me just kind of scroll down here and see. Yeah, we don't have too much left. I can probably do it in less than an hour. That way our recording doesn't get cut halfway through. So, okay, so where was I? Sorry. So, which is going to bring us to the Book of Jubilees. So, not only does Jubilees parallel Enoch, it also parallels the Tanakh, or the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. Specifically, Genesis and Leviticus and some of Exodus. It also gives understanding and supports the calendar in the Book of Enoch. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Sister Belinda. So, and as with everything else above, many tried to discredit it with lies and false information, Adam, because it reveals Yahuah's true calendar. The rabbis of the first century after Messiah had mixed opinions regarding what are now known as apocryphal books, such as Enoch and Jubilees. Though some maintain that these books were holy, or Kodesh, others claim that the reading of these books was enough to condemn one as a heretic. And we're going to see who were the ones promoting this latter statement. The books of Jubilees and Enoch may have been especially suppressed, as they espoused a solar-based calendar, in contrast to the dominant views supported by the Pharisees, according to which the months are lunar-based, and even their Sabbaths, aka Babylon. So one of the most prominent was Rabbi Akiva, who lived between the 1st and 2nd century and became, according to the rabbis, the greatest of all sages in the Torah. He participated in composing the Mishnah and the Halakha, which is the Jewish code of law. Again, all Talmudic traditions written down by rabbis and Pharisees. Nothing to do with Scripture. So he has many mentions in the Talmud and other rabbinic writings, and was also a Kabbalist. So the Kabbal, this is what Mr. Rabbi Akiva here was. Rabbi Akiva had the authority given to himself, not from Yahuah, and the power to order the removal of older biblical manuscripts and institute the use of new ones. And he could deem Hebrew texts in the temple court to be unfit for public reading. So Rabbi Akiva here took it upon himself to give himself authority to remove books that revealed Messiah, the calendar, and many other things. So rabbinic sources indicate that the rabbis also had the authority to dispose of entire biblical books if they deemed them unfit or inferior. And in fact, they did so on numerous occasions. Further, they also controlled the copying and dissemination of the Hebrew Masoretic text, which they created. Even prior to the destruction of the temple, there was already evidence of centralized control by the Jerusalem temple authorities, which were the usurpers, the Hasmoneans, over Hebrew biblical manuscripts circulating in Israel, which is why they were also being rebuked by Messiah and things of that nature, being told they don't know Scripture because they were denying the book of Enoch. Just more evidence to support that. And again, this is from my article. These sources are all cited in my article, which I had shared here in the chat on Telegram earlier, and it will be in the description on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. So the Masoretic was composed by Pharisee scribes who worked in the temple court and used master copies stored in the temple archives to quote-unquote correct, meaning edit out and reword, scrolls brought to Jerusalem by local leaders. This is recorded in rabbinic literature and is also evidenced by the scrolls found in the Dead Sea, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and their own writings admit to all of this, which no one really looks into, and they want to think, oh, you know, they're Yah's chosen people. No. This is their foundation, a Kabbalistic rabbi who took it upon himself to toss out books and establish a quote-unquote 5-book Torah, which is missing Jubilees and other books that should be counted as Torah. So when the temple was destroyed and other sects disappeared, such as the sons of Zadok from the Dead Sea, the Qumran community, the rabbis emerged with full control over the Proto-Masoretic text and the doctrines and writings of Rabbinic Judaism. These writings became absolutely authoritative for the Palestinians and those who follow Judaism by the rabbis. So Akiba and other influential rabbis traveled and successfully exerted their authority, and in time, the rabbinic influenced worldview became central to the Judaic belief and practice all around the earth, stemming modern Judaism. In the mid-2nd century, the Seder Olam became the official Jewish chronology. Rabbi Yosef ben Halafta, its primary author or editor, was a disciple of Akiba. The Seder Olam supersedes the authority of the Hebrew text, according to rabbis. So we can see they put rabbinical writings and traditions above the Torah itself, according to their own writings. And if you don't know, which we talked about before and shared before, on Rumble, there's a video called Testament of a Nothing Burger. So if you go on Rumble, just type in Testament of a Nothing Burger, and his channel will pop up by that same name. And it's a 4-hour video, and a lot of segments have rabbis in their own words backing up this exactly what we had just said. They put these traditions of Judaism over the Torah. So continuing, this is a quote from them. Our traditional chronology is based on Seder Olam because of the authority of its author. So they say Akiba and this Yosef ben Halafta had some kind of authority. It was self-given authority. Is rabbinic authority and not the authority of the sacred text that is paramount to these rabbinical Judaism followers. The rabbinic Seder Olam was successfully dispersed into the communities as the authoritative chronology of world history, not changing history like they still do today, and is followed by some even today. While the Mishnah insists that calendrical disagreements ought not, under any circumstances, tear the rabbinic community apart, even if that entails suppressing challenging opinions or ignoring astronomical facts in order to maintain calendrical unity. So, to point out right here, saying, oh, we can't worry about the calendar, it's going to cause a division, we just need to come together in unity. Guess where that came from? The Talmud and rabbis, traditions of men. Saying we got to suppress challenging opinions, ignore astronomical facts, just to maintain unity. Came from rabbinical Judaism. Remember that, not from the Bible. So thus removing many texts like Enoch, Jubilees, and many, many more. Qumran and Jerusalem were permanently separated by calendrical matters, the usurpation, and many other things. Akiba gained charge of a place in Israel called Jamna. Go look up the Council of Jamna, which took control of all biblical literature after the temple was destroyed by Rome in 70 AD. Akiba was a militant man, and he did not favor true followers of the way whatsoever. He didn't like Yahuah's truth. So Akiba, in his attempt to stop the spread of Yahuah's truth, did something extremely radical. Akiba destroyed, or burned, the original Hebrew manuscripts and implemented new, altered Hebrew manuscripts. The Masoretic, this is where that came from. Akiba, who is a Pharisee, also chose books only accepted by the Pharisees, which was centered around the idea that 22 books were scriptured. So, it was Akiba and these rabbis saying, oh, only 22 books were scripture. This is why Messiah rebuked them and quoted Enoch, telling them they don't know scripture, while calling Enoch scripture. Again, backing up and verifying the book of Enoch based on history itself. So because of this newly closed Hebrew canon that Akiba himself made, books like Enoch and Jubilees that were accepted by other Jewish sects or Hebrew sects had now been rejected. Akiba's disciples also made new doctrines, most if not all, just so they could deny the Messiah. One of his disciples, Rabbi Simeon, created, pay attention here, the idea that these sons of Elohim in Genesis 6 were humans, more specifically the descendants of Seth. So that doctrine of, those people that Genesis 6 is describing, it's not talking about fallen angels, it's describing the sons of Seth. Well, guess what? That came from Rabbi Akiba's disciple, a Pharisee, a usurper, Hasmonean. Again, why'd they make it? To deny the book of Enoch. Because the book of Enoch is describing the fallen angels and their fall and what had happened. So this false interpretation justified the rejection of books like Enoch and Jubilees, but also helped to deny followers of the way, because now being righteous was not dependent on a Messiah. Now, according to these rabbis, with this false interpretation, you could be a son of Elohim by your own actions, or bloodline separate from the perfect sacrifice, and crucifixion of our Messiah. It was actually this false interpretation that, okay, pay attention again, that later influenced the Christian churches, aka Catholicism, to reject the Book of Enoch. So all the claims like, oh, we don't see it in the early canon. Well, because they were following the rabbis and rejected it. So this is going to be a quote from Delestich, this book. Actually, hold on. Here, I'm going to read the name right here. So the theme of the Book of Enoch, dealing with the nature and deeds of the fallen angels, so infuriated the later church fathers that one, Philastrius, actually condemned it openly as heresy, which can be found in Philastrius Liber de Hesbius, page number 108. Nor did the rabbis deign to give credence to the book's teaching about angels. Rabbi Simeon ben Yochai, in the 2nd century A.D., pronounced a curse upon those who believed it. So yes, this is the, I'm going to butcher this translation. It's the siege. But page 223 of this book right here. So Philastrius, or aka Philastrius, bishop of Brescia, Catholicism of the beasts themselves, rejected the Book of Enoch during the Council of Laodicea around 363 to 364 AD. This is when the New Testament canon was laid out, and they tossed out the New Testament books. So Philastrius then influenced Augustine to reject the Book of Enoch. Although Christians love to claim the Book of Enoch is false for numerous reasons, the church only denied this claim for the reason presented above, the rabbis who rejected it. Why? Because it proved the true calendar of Yahuah. It proved the angels, the fallen angels, were the fallen, not the sons of Seth. They had to take these books out, remove them, to keep their lie going. So please note, if anyone else says otherwise, they are not reading the church history. So if they're saying, Enoch was denied because, it doesn't line up. No, it was denied by the church leaders, or quote-unquote Catholic bishops and so forth, only because the Pharisees denied it. Rabbi Akiva, and they were just following him. Why? Because they've been working together, again, since the Seleucid Empire. It's also important to note that Augustine actually admitted that Philastrius influenced him in his own views. So this is Augustine, who lived from 354 to 430 AD. His book, Letters of the Closing Years, which was written in 325. There are already in existence such works as what Elohim desires Augustine to compile. Or actually, I shouldn't say Elohim here because they're talking about God, their God, Satan, who willed Augustine to compile this canon. There's the book compiled by Bishop Philastrius, who Augustine remembers to have met at Milan with S. Ambrose. Philastrius numbers 28 heresies among the Jews before the Incarnation, and 128 since. So this is Augustine's own letters admitting in this Council of Laodicea the New Testament canon was set and books were removed. Facts right here from the letters of St. Augustine by W.J. Sparrow Simpson. Their own writings are showing this because, again, I'm pointing this out because there are some who say, oh, there's no proof in history that shows they created a New Testament canon. Well, you haven't searched deep enough. So regardless, the point is that Akiba and his disciples, which were Aquila, Simeon, as well as many others that we read about, made an impactful decision by not only rejecting scriptures, not only creating a new Greek translation and new doctrines, but they also created new altered Hebrew manuscripts with many passages, not all of them, that pertain to Messiah and the calendar, either changed or completely removed. 100%. So the book of Jubilees, which is also sometimes called Lesser Genesis, let me just double check how much recording. So 3 hours, 30 minutes. Yeah, we got this. 30 more minutes of our recording anyway. Then I'll have to start a new recording. So it's sometimes called the Lesser Genesis or Leptogenesis or the Book of Division of Time. It's an ancient Hebrew work of 50 chapters. My opinion and others and scholars as well is it was written by Moses himself. And we can see that in the wording, which we'll get into here. So it's considered canonical by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, as well as Beta Israel, or the Ethiopian Jews. It was also in the Dead Sea Scrolls library as canon. But it was known as the Book of Division in the Ethiopian Bible, and was included in many early canons of the Bible, not just the Ethiopian, until the discovery of the extensive fragments among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The only surviving manuscripts of Jubilees were 4 completed Ge'ez texts, or Ethiopian texts, dating to the 15th and 16th centuries. So they found the original Ge'ez text dating to the 15th and 16th century, giving plenty of time to edit things in there, which we do see. We see edits, removals, additions, so forth. Anyways, continuing, in several quotations by the quote-unquote church fathers, the Catholics themselves, who we just read, they threw it out, but then we had others that quoted it as well, such as Epiphanes, Justin Martyr, Origen, as well as Diodorus of Tarsus, Isidore of Alexandria, Isidore of Seville, and Eutychius of Alexandria, John Mallis, George Sinclair, and George Kedrenos. So all these people quoted from the Book of Jubilees and knew it as scriptures. There is also a preserved fragment of a Latin translation of the Greek that contains about a quarter of the whole work. So it was found in Ge'ez, it was found in Greek, it was found in Hebrew in the Dead Sea Scrolls. 3 witnesses attesting to the Book of Jubilees from history itself. So the Ethiopic texts, now numbering 27, are the primary basis for translation into English. Because the one found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the one found translated into the Greek, very fragmented. But passages in the text of Jubilees that are directly parallel to verses in Genesis do not directly reproduce either of the 2 surviving manuscripts. Dating from about 2,300 years ago, meaning the Dead Sea Scrolls, it contains material that is specifically in the book of Genesis, Leviticus, and the first half of Exodus. In addition, a striking feature of Jubilees is it divides history into periods of 49 years, hence the title Jubilees, because the 50th year is the Jubilee year, which in a biblical context refers to the end of a 49-year period and provides dates for biblical events. These following verses validate the book of Jubilees as scripture and inspired. It also shows it lines up with everything Enoch explains about the calendar. So Jubilees 6, 30 through 38. And all the days of the command shall be 52 weeks of days, 52 weeks of 7 days, and these shall make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraved and ordained on the tablets of the Shamayim. And there is no neglecting this command for a single year or from year to year. And you shall command the children of Israel that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these shall constitute a complete year. They shall not disturb its time from its days, and from its festivals, and for all shall fall out in them according to their witness. And they shall not leave out any day or disturb any festivals. But if they neglect, do not observe them according to his command, Yahuah's command, then they shall disturb all their seasons, and the years shall be dislodged from this order, and they shall neglect their laws. So if we're not following the luminaries and what Yahuah gave us, which is 52 weeks of 7 days, never a 53rd week of 7 days in here, these things are going to be dislodged, and we're not going to be observing them at the proper times. They're going to forget the path of the years and forget the heads of the months. Why? Because they call them new moons now. They mistranslate HaChodesh, heads of months, into new moon. This is why they forgot them. The 4 days of Noah's remembrance. And seasons and Sabbaths, and they shall go astray. Sorry, my screen's freaking out here a little bit. Okay, it's back. Apologies. It does that every now and then when my computer's been on quite a while, but anyways, continuing. So they shall go astray as to all the order of the years. For I know, and from this time on I shall declare to you. And it's not of my own devising, which this is Moses speaking. For the book is written before me, and on the tablets of the Shamayim, in the division of days, is ordained. What's the tablets of the Shamayim? The stars. That's what's the scrolls of the heavens, the tablets. It's written in the stars. Psalms 19. Lest they forget the festivals of the covenant and walk according to the festivals of the Gentiles, after their straying and after their ignorance. For there shall be those who assuredly make observations of the moon, and how it disturbs the seasons, comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. So as we can see, the moon being 354 days does not bring in a 364-day year. So we've gone over all of this. I'm just going to kind of breeze through it here a little bit so we can show, or so we have enough time here to show the rest talking about Jubilees. So again, just like Enoch, I'm going to go over the verses that correlate Jubilees and our scriptures, our quote-unquote 66 books. So Jubilees 16:26. And he Baruch his creator, who created him in his generation. For he had created him according to his good pleasure. For he knew and perceived that from him would arise the branch of righteousness. We know who that is. For the everlasting generations. And from him a Kodesh seed, so that it should become like him, Yahuah, who had made all matters. Sorry, throat's getting dry even though I'm drinking water. So this is going to line up right exactly with not only John, but Paul as well in Galatians. So starting with John, chapter 8, verse 56, your father Abraham was glad that he should see my day, and he saw it and rejoiced. So here we go, Abraham, and he, Baruch, rejoiced, blessed his creator who had created him, because why? He saw that from him, Abraham, a set-apart seed would come who would be like Yahuah. So he was rejoicing because he saw Messiah's day, just as John is reciting here. So again, we won't see anything in the modern quote-unquote scriptures without the Apocrypha, anything like this. And Galatians 3:16, but the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed, Abraham's seed. He does not say, and to seeds, as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, who is Mashiach. So this is Paul, again, quoting Jubilees, as we saw him quote Enoch earlier. Why? Because he was part of the Dead Sea Scrolls community. How long has it been? About 3.5 hours. So thanks for bringing that up. I want to double check. Oh, why is it black? Oh boy. Is it black for everybody? Can everybody see what's on screen here?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, awesome. So I know the recording's going to end here in a bit, but I'll have to reset it here just to check and see the time, but we're going to continue. There's not too much left here. So Jubilees 1:27 through 29, he said to the messenger, the angel of the presence, so he's telling the angel of the presence to write for Moshe from the beginning of creation. So this is going to be Jubilees 1:27 through 29. It's going to talk about how the angel of Yahuah wrote for Moshe all the divisions of the years and the days and so forth. Again, we're going to see Paul backing this up. Acts 7:53. So who received the Torah as it was ordained by messengers or angels, but did not watch over it? So he was talking about Moses here, who received the Torah given by angels. Again, you're not going to find the Torah was given by angels in just the, quote-unquote 5 Pharisaical books of Torah. Or they're not Pharisaical, the books themselves, but it being the number 5 and them saying that only these 5 books are Torah, that's Pharisaical. Galatians 3:19. Why then the Torah? It was added because of transgressions, until the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained through messengers, angels, in the hand of a mediator. So again, in Galatians, he's backing up the Torah was ordained through the angels. Right? The angel of Yahuah, his image, who is Messiah. So here we see Jubilees 1, the messenger of the presence, was asked to write for Moses the division of the years and the law of Yahuah. This is not found in the Old Testament. but found in Paul's writings, who knew Torah very well. So again, there's a group who like to dismiss Paul, toss him out as false, fake. You know, I'll put this out here right now. You know, if you think Paul is fake and false, I would like you to gather your evidence. We can gather our evidence, and we can come here on our channel and go through it as well and prove Paul is not false through scriptures. So I digress. Jubilees 50, verse 7 through 9 is going to be describing 6 days you shall labor, 7th day is the Sabbath of Yahuah. In it you shall do no manner of work, your sons, your servants, your sojourners. So the man that does any work on it shall die. Whoever profanes that day, whoever lies with his wife. So this is pay attention here, because people are like, oh, it says you can't be with your partner on the Sabbath. Well, we're going to go over that in the Torah. Or whoever says he shall do whatever on it, that he shall depart on a journey thereon in regard to buying or selling. Again, no long journeys in regard to buying or selling, things of that nature. And whoever draws water thereon, which he had not prepared for himself on the 6th day, and whoever takes up any burden to carry it out of his tent, his house, shall die. We're going to see all of this backed up here in just a moment. You shall do no work whatever on the Sabbath day, except what you have prepared for yourselves on the 6th day, so as to eat, drink, and rest, and guard the Sabbath from all work on that day. So not only is Jubilees backing up a lot of things that are going to be found in the prophets, Jubilees is saying, look, everything that you gathered on preparation day, like the food, the meat, skinning the animals, all that you've done there, you can therefore cook it on the Sabbath day. So I know there's going to be a strong difference of opinion there with some, but Jubilees specifically is saying it is perfectly okay to cook on the Sabbath day as long as you have already gathered all of these things. As long as you have already field dressed your animals on the preparation day, it is okay to cook them over the fire that would be kept going the night before, so as not to strike up a fire on the Sabbath. It would just be kept going. So again, it's perfectly fine to cook on the Sabbath so as to eat and drink and rest and guard the Sabbath from all work on that day, to Baruch your Elohim, Yahuah your Elohim, who has given you a day of festival, and a Kodesh day, and a day of the Kodesh rain for all Israel, is this day among their days forever. So Leviticus 15, 16 through 18 is going to address why we should not be intimate with our partners, meaning our wives or our husbands. Why it would be, why Jubilee specifically talks against it. So, and when a man has an emission of semen, that he shall wash his flesh in the water, and be unclean until that evening. And any garment and any leather on which there is this emission shall also be washed with water, and be unclean until evening. And when a woman lies with a man, and there is this emission, they both shall bathe in water, and be unclean until evening. Do you want to be unclean on a set-apart Kodesh day? If you're unclean, you are to be outside the camp. So again, this whole, we can't have sex on the Sabbath? No, because it will make you unclean. So Numbers 5, 1 through 3. Yahuah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Command the children of Israel to send out of the camp every leper and everyone who has a discharge, emission, and whoever becomes defiled for a being. Send them out, both male and female. Send them outside the camp, so that they do not defile their camps in the midst of which I dwell." So this is just verifying why it's being defiled on the Sabbath day by having this specific emission. I don't want to say that word too much.
May I
Yeah, go ahead. No worries. Go ahead, brother.
This is where in Jubilees, is it 49? I can't remember. When the Day of Atonement, you are to start the Day of Atonement from the evening to evening, meaning that from the evening before the Sabbath, you are to remain clean. And some people have taken this as to say evening to evening. That means that the day begins at sunset to sunset. But the evening before the Sabbath is when you are to prepare yourselves for the Sabbath. That's my belief of the preparation day. Is not only do you get food in and everything for the next day, but you that evening, when the sun goes down, keep yourselves clean, i.e., no relations, until and then so that you can appear on the Sabbath day clean for the Sabbath day.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's because, that evening before, we're clean until evening. So if you defile yourself or become defiled that evening, you have to wait until the next evening. So
that's kind of like the same thing as Nehemiah. And everyone wants to say, see, here they closed everything down the evening before the Sabbath. Well, same principle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So to not to mislead people, when it says not to have sexual relations on the Sabbath, it's not about having. It's more about keeping yourself clean the evening before the Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all because you have to be clean until that next evening. So if you become unclean in that evening, you have to wait until that next evening. That's why everything must be done the evening before the Sabbath in preparation of that, because you don't want to take the chance of being defiled or unclean, things of that nature.
And
So, go ahead.
Carrying it forward. So after rejoicing during the Sabbath, then when the sun goes down, that Sabbath evening will be fine for you and your wife to have your relations.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, for sure. Let's see. So 3 hours and 53 minutes. I may be able to finish this because we don't have very much left before we have to start a new recording. So let me see if I can just fit this in here. And I had to reset my Telegram there to see it again. So, all right. Yeah, we're almost finished here. So, yeah, do not become defiled to be outside the camp on a Sabbath day or festival day, a high Sabbath. So, again, remember the verse up here, don't carry a burden out of your house on the Sabbath in Jubilees. Well, guess where that's found? Jeremiah 17 through 22, a prophet. So you must not carry a load out of your house or do any work on the Sabbath day, but you must keep the Sabbath holy, just as I commanded your forefathers. So where else is do not carry a burden out of your house on the Sabbath? Nowhere else but Jubilees. And again, that's chapter 50, verses 7 through 9 in the book of Jubilees. So many will try to claim these verses in Jubilees 50 are adding to the Torah. This cannot be farther from the truth, as we can clearly see in Leviticus and Numbers. To be unclean, and the details why, are supporting evidence on why we shouldn't be with our partners in that way on a Sabbath day or a high Sabbath. We cannot be unclean on a set-apart day, or we have to be outside the camp. In verse 8, we see not to carry a burden from your house on the Sabbath. This is not found in the Torah at all, but is only found in the book of the prophet Jeremiah, solidifying even more the validity of Jubilees. In verse 9, it goes into more detail about cooking on the Sabbath. It's perfectly acceptable to do so, as long as you have gathered and prepped everything the day before. The Sabbath is a festival day to Yahuah, and fasting is only permissible when you are doing a 7-day or longer fast for Yahuah, as doing good works on the Sabbath is not against the Torah, as fasting would be doing a good work for Yahuah. Travel on the Sabbath should be considered carefully, and long journeys should be discouraged to prevent violation of Sabbath laws, which emphasize on rest and gathering. Resting can also help to maintain focus on Yahuah during the set-apart day. The meaning of travel on the Sabbath intertwines with the themes of rest, reflection, and community. It prompts individuals to consider how their choices on this day may affect spiritual well-being. A long journey can be tiresome and a lot of work, and doesn't allow for gathering. However, there are exceptions, especially in the cases of necessity, worship, or to do good works. For example, those attending an assembly often travel short distances, and we should demonstrate a balance between honoring the Sabbath and fulfilling our obligations to Yahuah by not going on a long journey and resting. So as we can see, Enoch parallels Jubilees, and both books parallel the Bible and are inspired works. They are the base of the calendar of the Zadok priests found in the Qumran community and the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were removed by secular, quote-unquote, authority figures because they didn't fit with their observance of the moon. And were, and still are, highly discredited for this same reason. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear and willing to study truth will understand this. Praise Yahuah. Sweet. 3 hours, 58 minutes. We made it. So, real quick, let me pause or stop this recording and start another one up, and we can continue our fellowship and, talk about if anyone has any questions or anything anyone would like to bring up. So, one moment here.